I, Hermione, travel through time to Marvel to be the savior. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, Overturned, Hogsmeade Village. After Hermione and Ron collected Harry's broken broom, they turned around and went back to the Hogwarts infirmary. Harry just woke up, and his Quidditch teammates were all here. They were very worried about Harry. Seeing this scene, the happiness that was sucked away by the Dementors was instantly replenished, and Harry's mouth began to smile. "Look, he's awake." "Harry, what's this?" "Don't make a fuss. Harry didn't break his head." The laughter and joy dispelled the coldness. Harry really liked this place. Everyone here is talented and speaks well. This place is like home. But Harry soon became concerned about the topic that he cares about most. How did the game go? In the past 2 years, after Harry Potter joined the Gryffindor team as a Seeker, he was invincible and almost suppressed the Slytherin team. This year, because of the Dementors, Harry was very worried. Sure enough, the players present were all embarrassed. One of them said, "Harry, no one blames you." Harry heard this and probably understood what it meant. They had been leading the Slytherin team for so long, but they fell behind this year. However, Ron was Harry's sweetheart at this moment. He promptly gave Harry the broomstick that had been smashed into pieces by the Hopping Willow and said, "There is one thing you should know. Your broomstick was blown to the Hopping Willow by the wind, and then it was destroyed." Harry felt that he had lost his happiness again. Miss Hermione was quite open-minded. As long as people were not dead, everything was a small matter. A top-notch broomstick might be expensive for ordinary wizards, but for Miss Hermione, who was a wealthy woman, it was worthless. Of course, she would not take the initiative to buy it for Harry. First of all, Harry was also a rich second generation, and he was not short of money. Secondly, someone would buy it for Harry in the future, and the broomstick bought by that person would be more valuable as a gift to Harry. So Miss Hermione didn't need to do anything unnecessary. When everyone left the infirmary, Hermione and Ron separated. As a diligent and hard-working student, Miss Hermione had to go to class in the afternoon. Hermione in the original movie was still quite cool. The director turned the camera and went straight to the next plot. Although Hermione, who traveled through time, also got a treasure like a time converter, she had no way to fast forward. She had to study and work steadily every minute and every second. Sometimes, I really want the happy time to pass slowly, the hard time to pass quickly. However, what Hermione didn't expect was that Malfoy would suddenly appear in front of Hermione. He brought the Quidditch trophy the Slytherin rarely won, and stopped the beautiful Miss Hermione with a smug look on his face. No matter how many times he saw Hermione, Malfoy's beauty still moved his heart. Look at those wine-red lips that look like jelly in the sun. Look at that small and cute little upturned nose. Look at those big eyes that are more beautiful and shining than diamonds and gems. Look at those delicate long eyelashes, perfect eyebrows, intoxicating little cheeks, and skin that is smoother than satin. A golden ratio figure, a goddess temperament. This is definitely not the look Malfoy likes. Hey, what a coincidence. What a coincidence. You are obviously blocking me here on purpose. The weather is very good today. What a coincidence. The dark clouds haven't retreated yet, and the sun hasn't come out yet, Hermione said impatiently. What do you want to do? Malfoy didn't pretend anymore. He showed his cards. He took out the trophy and said, "Look, isn't it nice? Our team defeated the Harry Potter team and won." Hermione crossed her arms and taunted, "If it weren't for the Dementors, could you have won our house?" Malfoy was embarrassed. He originally came to show off to the goddess, but he forgot an extremely important thing. Miss Hermione Granger seemed to be from the Gryffindor house, which means that Malfoy won this trophy by defeating Hermione's house. At this moment, Malfoy came to the goddess with the trophy to show off, which seemed a bit too much. Malfoy put away the trophy. He forced a smile and said, "Why did the Dementors attack Harry and not us?" "This shows that it's Harry Potter's problem," Hermione continued impatiently. Malfoy, do you have anything else to do? If not, I'm going to class. Malfoy sighed. It's been more than 2 years. Hermione, can't you be nicer to me? Hermione also rarely spoke the truth. Malfoy, I know you like me. In fact, I like myself too. Think about it. If I treat you well, wouldn't you fall deeper? In order to prevent you from suffering from love, it's good for us to maintain an ordinary classmate relationship like this. Malfoy was a little excited. He stepped closer and said, Hermione, I am not afraid of the suffering of love. You promise to be my girlfriend. Miss Hermione took out her wand and warned, Malfoy, don't make me hate you more. Malfoy looked at Hermione's wand, and finally reason overcame impulse. He calmed down and said, Hermione, no matter how you push me away, I have to tell you that in this life, you can only be my Malfoy's woman. TSK, daydreaming. Hermione ignored Malfoy and turned away. Being targeted by Malfoy, to be honest, there was a sense of crisis, which made Hermione consider whether to secretly kill Malfoy in the dead of night. Time passed quickly, and Harry was discharged from the hospital after lying in the infirmary for a day. He recovered quickly, and his mood also recovered quickly from the depression of the Dementors, but it started snowing these days. Harry was unhappy again, because the school was going to organize a winter trip to Hogsmeade Village that only third-year and above students could participate in. This was a very interesting trip for the little lovers who were secretly in love and the students who had some private money. It was even happier than Christmas. Although Harry was a single dog, he also wanted to participate. But, at the beginning of this year, Hogwarts required every student to get a guardian's signature. In fact, just to go to Hogsmeade today, you must have a guardian's signature. Otherwise you can't go. The rules are very strict. Even if Harry Potter is the savior of Hogwarts and a celebrity, it doesn't work. Rules are rules. Vice Principal Professor McGonagall told Harry to stay in Hogwarts and not go anywhere, let alone cause trouble. Harry was very depressed, and he could only go to Professor Lupin. Professor Lupin didn't look very good recently, but when he saw Harry coming, he still invited Harry to take a walk in the woods. Today is a good day, the air is fresh, and people are in nature, and their mood is also happy. Harry, are you feeling better? Thank you, I'm much better. Harry smiled slightly, and then asked something. Professor Lupin, I want to know why the Dementors always target me. This is very strange. In the first train compartment, there are so many students, and the Dementors forcefully kissed Harry. The same thing happened during the last Quidditch match. Although he was lured to the highest altitude by the cunning Golden Snitch, the Dementors only attacked him. Professor Lupin replied, this is normal, Harry, because Dementors can sense things that ordinary people cannot sense. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 227, It's not the wind that's moving, it's the heart that's moving. Ron looks at Hermione. Facing Professor Lupin's explanation, Harry expressed his concern and said, what can Dementors feel? Professor Lupin looked at Fang and said, Harry, you are different from ordinary people. You have experienced something that ordinary students may never experience in their lifetime. It is also a very painful and terrible experience. Anyway, as long as it is related to the mysterious man Voldemort, it is an extraordinary experience. Dementors can feel this, so they are particularly interested in you. Harry may have been with Hermione for a long time in the past 2 or 3 years, and he has unknowingly acquired her good habits. Faced with this unfair treatment, he naturally complained in his heart. Since he likes the mysterious man so much, the Dementor should just go and pester Voldemort, and marry Voldemort. What kind of ability is it to catch Harry, a poor little thing, and bully him again and again? Or are Dementors just bullying the weak and afraid of the strong? Harry was not a pushover. He immediately wanted to fight back. Professor Lupin, when we first met, you used the magic to drive away the Dementors in the carriage. Later in class, you used that magic again. I want to learn it. Professor Lupin, can you teach me? Professor Lupin thought for a moment and said, this magic is not something you can learn at your age. The Patronus charm is one of the most powerful, oldest and most famous spells. It is extremely difficult to successfully cast the Patronus charm. This is why Professor Lupin did not teach his students However, thinking of Harry Potter's identity and the situation he was facing, Professor Lupin closed his old clothes and said a little coldly, "Okay, I can teach you, but not now. When I have time, I will teach you slowly." "Thank you, teacher." Teaching magic in advance. Is this considered a special treatment? Harry was very happy. He could finally go head-to-head with the most terrifying monster in his heart, the Dementors. Harry came to see Professor Lupin for something. He could always relieve his inner depression by finding someone he could talk to. There are two kinds of sharing in the world. 1. Tell me your pain and make me happy. 2. I am in a good mood. Don't let your unhappiness infect me. People's hearts are complicated. Before leaving, Harry and Professor Lupin talked about some very private topics. Professor Lupin admitted that he knew Harry's mother Lily, and said that Lily was as charming as Miss Hermione now. Although Professor Lupin did not admit that he was Lily's suitor, there is no doubt that he expressed the same feeling as Professor Snape when he first met Harry Potter 2 years ago. "Harry Potter, you are so much like your parents. Your personality is very similar to your father, and your eyes. These eyes are very similar to your mother." Professor Lupin's words also completely explained Harry's last doubts in his heart. Not only women have a sixth sense, but men also have it. Professor Lupin's attitude towards Harry is different from that towards other students. Harry can feel this. At first he thought it was because Harry Potter was more famous. Today, Professor Lupin confessed, and Harry finally understood. It turns out that Professor Lupin was a friend of Harry's parents back then. After talking with Professor Lupin, Harry was obviously in a much better mood. He was unwilling to sit and wait for death, and decided to take the initiative. Harry didn't want to be unable to go to Hogsmeade Village because he didn't have the Guardian's signature. Many seniors who had been there said that this village was very interesting, and even more lively than Diagon Alley in some aspects. Harry didn't want to miss it, so the bold and troublemaking Harry decided to sneak across. The story here in the original play was separated from the story of Harry, Hermione, and Ron's three-person adventure team. In the original play, Hermione and Ron went to Hogsmeade Village alone. From the movie clips, it can be seen that the two of them were a bit like a date. After all, without Harry as a light bulb, the private tryst between the two naturally made the relationship heat up faster. Of course, even in the original play, it was only in the early stage, and the performance was not particularly obvious. As for Hermione's side, there is no need to explain more. After more than 2 years of licking the dog, he went to Hogsmeade Village alone with the goddess. That excited heart and trembling hands. Ron could hardly take his eyes off the goddess Hermione's perfect and beautiful face. He asked with some excitement and trepidation, "Hermione, are we just going to ignore Harry?" The system popped up options. Option 1, who told him not to get the Guardian's signature. Let him play in the mud alone. He doesn't deserve to go to Hogsmeade. Complete the task and get a box of premium salted duck eggs. Option 2, I have a way. We can help Harry forge a Guardian's signature. As long as we imitate Harry's uncle's handwriting, it won't be seen by outsiders. I'm really smart. Complete the task and get a box of butter bread. Option 3, don't want to help Harry. He's so smart. He will find a way. Complete the task and get a basic attribute +1. Miss Hermione didn't want to help. It was mainly because she felt that Harry was capable. If Hermione helped, she would feel like she was doing more harm than good. It's better to let things take their course. Of course, she didn't choose option 3 because she was jealous of the reward for option 3. The main thing was that option 1 was too much and damaged the image of a fairy. Option 2 is too fake. I always feel that imitating handwriting will be easily detected in the wizarding world, and the gains will not outweigh the losses. Of course, this does not deny that there are no successful cases. Wizards are not gods. In the first year, the headmaster Dumbledore was tricked out of Hogwarts by Voldemort and Professor Quirrell, who colluded with each other, with a fake letter from the Ministry of Magic. But Hermione still felt that forging the Guardian's signature was very troublesome, and she didn't want to do it just for the reward of a box of butter bread. Ron, we have to believe in Harry. He is smart and he will definitely find a way. Hermione said so. Ron suddenly understood. That's right, Harry is not a person who likes to sit and wait for death. If he really wants to come, he will definitely find a way. So, For the next period of time, Ron and Miss Hermione will be alone together. To describe it with the words before crossing, it's a poor loser and a white rich beauty. Ron knew that the rich second-generation Malfoy had been pursuing Hermione for many years, but Hermione never let go. And of course Ron had no chance. However, Ron and Miss Hermione spent much more time alone together than Malfoy, especially at this moment. Without Harry Potter, Ron was even more distracted. Under the organization of Vice Principal Professor McGonagall, everyone began to head towards Hogsmeade Village. Ron looked at the beautiful Miss Hermione beside him, and had already forgotten his brother Harry. The gentle wind blew Hermione's long hair, which was fragrant and beautiful. It was more beautiful than the most beautiful painting in the world. Ron was fascinated. He knew that it was not just the wind that moved, but also the heart. However, being a licker also has its own self-awareness. He can like and protect, but Ron will not be as domineering as Malfoy and want to take it for himself. Ron can be a knight and always protect his princess, and the beautiful Hermione is his princess. You've been looking at me for so long, your eyes must be tired. Come, put some eye drops. Miss Hermione was obviously a bit of a spoilsport. However, Ron didn't mind Miss Hermione's sudden nonsensical behavior. This was what made her cute, charming and unique. Chapter 228, Air of Mischief, Marauder's Map. Miss Hermione certainly understood her own charm. Before she traveled through time, she was already a beautiful girl who was loved by everyone. She was used to being watched, admired, and liked by many people, but she was cautious by nature and liked to keep a low profile. Usually, this kind of conflict could be handled well, but today, Hermione and Ron were alone, and this dog was fascinated again. He didn't even blink for more than 10 minutes. Miss Hermione couldn't stand it, so she asked Ron to put some eye drops in his eyes. Of course, Ron immediately understood his impoliteness, and quickly turned his head with a blushing face and restrained himself. He knew that Miss Hermione didn't like excessive admiration. There was a limit to everything she did. If it was too much, it was not admiration, but harassment. In the world, few girls like to be harassed. Harry acted quickly. When Ron and Hermione left Hogwarts and went to Hogsmeade Village, he immediately put on the invisibility cloak and set off. That's right, Harry has an invisibility cloak. If you don't let me go, I will go. However, because there was snow on the ground, Harry was too anxious and left footprints carelessly. The one who found Harry was Ron's twin brother. They were old acquaintances in the original movie. Last year, he and Ron drove a charming flying car to pick up Harry. This year, the two brothers were very powerful again. Fred and George, the two brothers look so much alike. Even their speech, expressions and movements are almost exactly the same. Even Harry couldn't tell which one was Fred and which one was George. Let me go. Let me go. Harry was carried directly to a hidden place in the school castle by the two brothers. The two brothers are very optimistic, especially like to play tricks and laugh. When you are with them, you can hardly feel sad. Hey, friend, don't scream. It will be bad if others hear you. We caught you for a reason. The director arranged them here. They have an important mission. Fred and George were not very gentle. They directly pulled off Harry's invisibility cloak. It was obvious that Harry's invisibility cloak was no longer a secret to Fred and George. Unlike the conservative Miss Hermione Granger, few people knew how many treasures and trump cards she had. For example, she had never used the machine guns, grenades, missiles, explosives, etc. in her space ring. Harry said angrily, "What's the reason? You ruined my good thing." Fred and George looked at each other and smiled habitually. "Harry, your method of sneaking out of school is not a good thing. Even we can find you. If you are caught by the professor, you will be finished." Harry fell silent. That's right, he was too impatient. "I will be careful next time." Fred and George suddenly said sincerely, "Don't be like this, Harry. We are here to help you." "Here, take this." The two brothers threw a large yellowed paper to Harry, which looked quite old. "What is this?" Fred smiled and said, "This is the Marauder's Map. It requires a spell to appear." "Repeat after me. I solemnly swear that I will use this to do something weird." This spell is really interesting. Harry felt that it was very much to his liking. However, The next second, something magical happened. On this originally blank yellowed paper, a series of names of the makers first appeared: Moonface, Wormtail, Padfoot, Bronx, and then a sentence, proudly presenting the Marauders map. Magic is really magical. Harry was fascinated by it. The next moment, a scene that surprised him even more appeared. Although it was not a three-dimensional color map, a two-dimensional plane map gradually appeared on this magic paper. The painting style was simple, but every place could be clearly recognized. It must be said that the wizards who made this Marauders map were very attentive and had a high level of skill. Oh my god, is this Principal Dumbledore? On the Marauders map, in the principal's office in Harry's memory, a pair of feet appeared and walked in the map room. It was really interesting. It was magical. George explained, Dumbledore is in his study. He is always pacing. It can be seen that the headmaster Dumbledore has a lot of troubles in private. It's amazing. Where did you get this thing? Harry was surprised. Fred and George replied, in the first year, we stole it from the drawer of the janitor Filch's office. That old guy, he doesn't know how to use this map, otherwise we will all be finished. That's right, the janitor Filch is a special person who catches disobedient students who violate school rules. He usually acts with a cat. If he can use the Marauders map, the consequences will be disastrous. Harry was also scared. But Harry was too excited and forgot a very important thing. That is, why did the janitor Filch not know how to use it? But Fred and George knew it. The answer is obvious. The director told them, Harry, after using it, be sure to knock it and say, prank is over. Only in this way can the Marauders map be hidden again. Otherwise, anyone can see it. Fred and George continued to laugh. So, if you want to take the trip to Hogsmeade, the invisibility cloak alone is not enough. You also need this map. Only in this way can you perfectly avoid all those who want to catch you. And we have also planned the best route for you to leave Hogwarts. Obviously, Fred and George are about to graduate, and they decided to pass this treasure to the next generation of troublemakers, the successor of mischief. There are a total of 7 secret passages that can lead out of the castle. We recommend this one, the One-Eyed Witch passage, which can lead directly to the Honeybee Duke's cellar. It must be said that when it comes to mischief and troublemaking, Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Bronx, who made the Marauders map, are the ancestors. And Fred and George are the senior brothers of this school. Now that the senior brother is about to graduate, he will pass it on to his junior brother Harry Potter. Thank you so much. Harry was very excited. He didn't expect that he would get the invisibility cloak in his first year, the Sword of Gryffindor in his second year, but it was taken back later, and the Marauders map in his third year. It was so exciting. Harry was as happy as Ms. Hermione Granger got a time turner. The scene changed, and Harry Potter appeared in Hogsmeade Village. There were many shops here, as lively as Diagon Alley, with a strong festive atmosphere, and everyone was very happy. Davis and Bang's store, Fenya Wizard Clothing Store, Honeyduke's Candy Store, Madame Putafoot Tea Shop, Literati Quill Shop, Shrieking Shack, Three Broomsticks Pub, etc. Harry Potter moved a heavy floorboard and crawled out of the cellar of Honeyduke's Candy Store. Then he was excited and skillfully put on the invisibility cloak, walked up the stairs, and went out to do bad things. What bad things did Harry do? First of all, there were many students in Honeyduke's Candy Store. One of them was an old acquaintance, the silly Neville. He had just bought a large red lollipop. Just as he opened the sugar coating and was about to taste the delicious candy, Harry, wearing an invisibility cloak, directly snatched his lollipop. Neville was stunned. His brain was not as flexible as Fred and George. He could not see Harry at all, but saw his lollipop flying out of thin air. It's amazing. It's worthy of Hogsmeade Village. Neville, the fat boy who lost his lollipop, exclaimed. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 229 Coach, I want to play basketball. Honeyduke's Candy Store. Neville would never have dreamed that his lollipop was actually secretly taken away by Harry Potter wearing an invisible cloak. Harry even tasted it for Neville. It was good, quite sweet, but not greasy. It was a high-end candy. It was worthy of Hogsmeade Village. In the movie, Harry did not eat it. Maybe he just happened to come out of Honeyduke's candy store and saw his old acquaintance Neville. He just wanted to tease him and took his candy. Harry in the original play might be worried that Neville had eaten this lollipop. If Harry licked it, it would be full of Neville's saliva. Oh my god, it was too disgusting. In the whole Hogwarts, it is estimated that only the fairy like Miss Hermione would not dislike something that Harry had eaten. On this side, Harry came out early and happened to see Neville just opening the sugar coating of the lollipop, so naturally there was no need to worry about Neville having eaten it. Details, all details. Harry walked out of Honeyduke's candy store. His next destination was naturally to find Hermione and Ron. Harry really couldn't wait to see them as soon as possible. Tell them that he successfully smuggled to Hogsmeade Village. Hermione and Ron also encountered trouble. After Hermione dripped eye drops into Ron's eyes, Ron, the dog, obviously restrained himself a lot. At least he didn't stare at Hermione's peerless face. Maybe Ron's chance to travel alone with Miss Hermione was too jealous. In the original movie, Malfoy, who was clearly just looking for trouble, was successfully given a new purpose here. Malfoy and his two followers Crabbe and Goyle bought a lot of gifts, even though they knew that Ms. Hermione might hate him. But when chasing girls, how can you back down when you encounter some difficulties? Besides, the setbacks Malfoy encountered with Miss Hermione were not a little bit. If you add them up, you can write a book. He has been through a lot. However, what almost broke Malfoy's defense was that Miss Hermione and Ron were actually dating alone and having an affair. How could this be tolerated? Although Malfoy still didn't quite understand the true meaning of cuckoldry, at this moment, he felt as if his head was burning with anger. Miss Hermione was usually close to Ron and Harry, but this time when they came to Hogsmeade to play, without Harry, Miss Hermione was actually alone with Ron. What a joke. Malfoy racked his brains and couldn't figure out why he was inferior to that poor loser Ron. Why did Miss Hermione prefer to stay with Ron instead of with him? Damn it. Malfoy's anger directly burned out his reason. Malfoy's reason was usually not enough, and now it became a scarce resource. Asshole. What are you two doing? The weather was very cold, and you could see that Malfoy's face was red with anger. Too jealous. He was so unhappy and unwilling to accept it. Exclamation mark, Ron was 1 against 3, so naturally he had no chance of winning. At this time, only Hermione could take action, otherwise, Ron would have been beaten up. Hermione was waiting. Sure enough, the system option would not remain silent. It would definitely jump out to join in the fun. Option 1, Coach, I want to play basketball. Take out a basketball and teach Malfoy and his two followers how to play basketball on the spot. The requirement is to beat them until they are bruised and swollen. Completion of the task will reward a star-signed commemorative basketball. Option 2, Coach said, I can't do it either. Give the basketball to Ron and let him perform on the spot. Completion of the task will reward exclusive attribute, skills, +1. Option 3, stand up and drive Malfoy and his group away normally. Completion of the task will reward a sapphire. Miss Hermione was not disappointed. It is worthy of being a system, which can perfectly combine, Coach, I want to play basketball, with, it is simply a devil's association. Fortunately, the system still left a way out for human beings and left a normal option 3, otherwise Hermione would be embarrassed to death. The beautiful and heroic Miss Hermione took out her wand right away. At that moment, her aura as a witch and a top student was strongly displayed. In the wizarding world, a wand is a pistol. In the era of cold weapons, it is like drawing a sword. This means declaring war. Malfoy, I warn you, don't make trouble for yourself. Malfoy was even more anxious, and said angrily, Hermione, you disappoint me so much. You actually want to use your wand against me for Ron? I've always been so good to you. Hermione wanted to say something else. It's all your wishful thinking. Do you think I'm a gold digger? Give me some money, buy some gifts, and say some sweet words, and I will have a good impression of you. Kidding. I'm a senior human woman. I look at the inside, the bone marrow, the internal organs, and the soul. There is no man in this world who is worthy of me. But Miss Hermione didn't have the chance to say this, because Harry is here. Although Harry didn't understand why Malfoy and his group were at loggerheads with Miss Hermione and Ron. Normally, Malfoy didn't give face to Ron and Harry, but generally gave face to Hermione. The main reason was that Hermione was too beautiful and Malfoy was attracted to her. Harry didn't know that Malfoy was a scumbag plus violent man. When he got angry, he would tear his face off impulsively and even beat the woman he loved the most. But when he calmed down, he would humbly ask his beloved girlfriend for forgiveness. There are many men with this kind of personality in the Muggle world. It is often said that men are afraid of choosing the wrong career and women are afraid of marrying the wrong man. The latter means this: no matter how good a girl is, if she meets a man who beats his wife, there is basically no happiness to speak of. Of course, if the man is rich and powerful, at least the material life will be better. I am afraid that he has no money, eats, drinks, gambles, smokes, beats his wife, and smashes things at home. It's scary to think about it. For a good woman, this kind of life is simply impossible to live, and there is no hope for the future. Of course, nothing is absolute. If she is not a good woman, but a bad woman with the same personality as a bad man, then they are a perfect match. A perfect match made in heaven. Miss Hermione can feel Harry's aura, because Hermione is not only a wizard, but also an assassin, a warrior, a tank, and a support. At the same time, she is also a martial arts master hidden in the city. She has been practicing the Tathagatapam. Although she has not found the skills and opportunities to open the Ren and Doom meridians, hard work pays off. After accumulating over time, Hermione has achieved some success. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230, Can't Afford to Play, Screaming Shack. If you are a lucky person, you will definitely get results after hard work, and at least you will get some sweet flowers. But the world is impermanent, and nothing is absolute. If you are an unlucky person, sometimes you don't know what despair is without working hard. Fortunately, Miss Hermione is not an ordinary person. Before she traveled through time, her luck was 10% more than that of ordinary people. This 10% is not fluctuating, but mandatory. Things you pick up, such as gold, must be taken, otherwise, it will be delivered directly to your pocket by SF Express the next day. No matter what it is. Even a baseball bat is no exception. In order to prevent her pocket from suffering, Miss Hermione usually cooperates. For example, when she first came to Hogsmeade Village, she happened to pick up a piano. Isn't it a coincidence? Fortunately, after traveling through time, Miss Hermione has a treasure like a space ring, so she doesn't have to worry about having no place to put it. It's just that there are too many things in the space ring, and Miss Hermione has to give gifts to others from time to time to free up some things that are not particularly important. With such good luck, even if it is not easy to practice the peerless magic skill Rulai Shenjiang, as long as Miss Hermione persists every day and makes a little progress every day, the accumulation is still not to be underestimated. So at this moment, even if Harry appeared wearing an invisible cloak, no one else noticed. Hermione's master perception immediately felt it. This feeling is very wonderful, because the martial arts master system is different from the wizard magic system, just like the difference between chemistry and physics. Very subtle, different, but each has its own uses. Hermione has learned a lot of things, and her attribute points are also the same. Although she is not invincible, she always has more ways to face different problems in different scenarios. At this moment, even if Miss Hermione also took out her wand and prepared to attack, Malfoy was so angry that he could not care so much. Every normal man cannot tolerate the woman he likes to have a tryst with another man alone, unless this man is abnormal. Malfoy is of course normal. He does not intend to give Hermione face. Today he will play a big game and vent all of the grievances and unwillingness accumulated over the past 2 years. That's right, it's like everyone has a magic wand. Malfoy also took out his wand and confronted Ms. Hermione head-on. He knew that his magic was not as good as Hermione's, but what did it matter? Men can be timid, but when it comes to some things that touch the bottom line, even if they know they can't win, they can't be timid. In Malfoy's heart, although the beautiful Miss Hermione has always ignored him, he has always regarded Hermione as his own woman. She can be naughty and disobedient, but she must never be alone with other men and tourist attractions outside. This has touched Malfoy's bottom line. I will fight Hermione, and you go beat Ron. Remember, you must beat him half to death. Malfoy has a good plan. He drags Hermione and lets his 2 men Crabbe and Goyle beat Ron. It's really a plan. Crabbe and Goyle are not good guys either. At this moment, they are ready to get close to Ron. Ron is facing a great enemy, and of course he can't back down. Even if he catches one and dies together, he will not give in. As a man, you have to be tough at the critical moment. However, it was going to be a wonderful duel, but it was suddenly broken by a mysterious force. If Malfoy knew that it was Harry Potter who attacked in stealth, he would definitely curse. "Are you guys not worth playing with?" Be a man, draw your bayonet, and fight head-on, in stealth, attacking and scaring people. What kind of skill is that? Because Crabbe and Goyle are more threatening, Malfoy will not take the initiative to attack Miss Hermione. At the same time, Hermione's magic is the best among wizard students of the same age, so Harry doesn't have to worry too much. But Ron, his physique is not as good as those 2 lazy Crabbe and Goyle. If he is beaten by the other party, Ron will probably lose. In order to prevent his brothers from losing, Harry first attacked Crabbe and Goyle. He grabbed Crabbe's scarf and then took his hat. Harry pulled off Goyle's pants and dragged him on the snow by his feet. This scene is so magical, just like in the original movie. I have to say that Harry is still very good at teasing people. Ah, what's going on? My pants. What the hell? Let me go. Let me go. Crabbe and Goyle were good for nothings. When they had an overwhelming advantage, they could bully the weak. But when they were attacked by something beyond common sense, they were immediately scared to death. They didn't even have time to fix their pants and hats, and they just ran away. Damn it. Where are you going? Although Malfoy was also shocked by this scene, he was instantly deflated when he saw his 2 accomplices running away without hesitation. Compared with his anger, his life was more important. Don't leave me behind, you 2 good-for-nothings. Malfoy ran away faster, and at the same time, he didn't forget to turn back and warn Ron. Ron Weasley, you stinky boy, stay away from Miss Hermione from now on. Miss Hermione is mine. Malfoy hadn't finished speaking when he was hit in the face by a snowball in the shadow state, just like a snowball fight. If you can see who threw the snowball, it won't be scary, but the snowball just flew out of nowhere and hit Malfoy, which naturally frightened him. He had heard that this place was unclean and haunted, but he didn't expect it to be true. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. When the selfish Malfoy caught up with his younger brothers Crabbe and Goyle, who were also running away, he pushed them hard so that Crabbe and Goyle could be pushed back to serve as a scapegoat so that he could successfully escape. Crabbe and Goyle also knew the character of the boss. Although they were angry, they didn't say much. They got up and continued to run away. Ha ha ha. Ron couldn't help laughing. Since Harry started teasing Crabbe and Goyle, Ron guessed who it was. Crabbe and Goyle were too scared to pay attention to their feet. Although Harry came with an invisibility cloak, he couldn't hide his footprints. There was thick snow here, so the footprints that appeared out of thin air on the snow were still quite obvious. Looking at the way they run away, I really want to take a picture of them. Harry, you are awesome. Seeing Malfoy and his group running away, Harry took off his invisibility cloak on his own initiative. He was naturally very happy to see Ron and Hermione. Of course, he was also excited about scaring Malfoy and his group away just now. Harry also laughed and said, "They are so timid. I just threw a few snowballs and they were scared away." Ron said, "Harry, when you are invisible, you are completely invisible. To be honest, it is really scary." Hermione also said, "Yes, and it also has something to do with the geographical location here." Geographic location? Harry and Ron were a little curious at the same time. Hermione began to popularize science. Do you see that over there? That's the most terrifying haunted place in the whole of Britain. The Shrieking Shack. The Shrieking Shack. Harry and Ron had heard of this famous haunted house, but today was the first time they had seen it. So, that's the Shrieking Shack. No wonder Malfoy and his group were so scared just now. Not only because Harry's sneak attacks and pranks in his invisible state were scary, but also because there was a terrifying legend here. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 231 The Godfather, The Shocking Secret of the Three Broomsticks. Whether you look at the Shrieking Shack from a distance or up close, you will feel a sense of horror. Hermione joked. How about we go over and take a look? Miss Hermione's tone was very joking, and Ron and Harry knew what Hermione meant as soon as they heard it. Let's not do that. I'm a little scared. Ron spoke the truth. Seeing this, Hermione stopped talking about this topic. She turned to Harry and asked, Harry, how did you get to Hogsmeade? Although Hermione could guess roughly, she still pretended not to know. Ron immediately became curious and said, That's right, Harry. How did you get here? Harry did not hide it and told Ron and Hermione the general situation. After listening, Ron complained first. Fred and George, those two guys, have such a good thing as the Marauders map, but they never told me. Miss Hermione was not surprised by this scene. Brothers should settle accounts clearly. Besides, Fred, George and Ron were not in a relationship where they knew everything and told everything. Harry has the added bonus of fame and the aura of the protagonist, so naturally he is not comparable to Ron. Hermione suggested, It's almost noontime, let's go and have dinner. There are very few scenes of eating in the original movie. Normal people have to eat 3 times a day. Even if there is nothing to watch, they can't not eat. The stomach won't agree. Ron and Harry didn't refuse, and the three of them went to the lively place in Hogsmeade Village together. There are many places to eat, and the price is not too expensive. The three little guys ate happily, until I saw a special woman with a toothpick in my mouth. Miss Rosmerta. This lady is not simple. She is the hostess of the Three Broomsticks in Hogsmeade. She is very sociable. The teachers and professors in the school know her, the goblins know her, and even the Minister of Magic Fudge is very familiar with her. She is a graceful lady with a very pretty figure and a charming lady. Interestingly, in the original movie, when Ron was in the 6th grade, he had a crush on her for a long time, and Hermione often teased Ron with this. It can be seen that every adolescent boy will have an experience of liking a mature and beautiful woman. Ron is no exception. Because Miss Hermione is so outstanding, Ron only has Hermione in his heart and no one else. However, Hermione still took a sip of the drink and mocked Ron. Ron, look, that lady, what do you think? You can't hide your love for someone. Since Ron was fascinated by Miss Rosmerta in the original play, it is inevitable that he still feels a little moved now. After all, feelings don't lie. Ron was a little embarrassed. He stopped looking at her and covered up. Hermione, don't make fun of me. That lady is old enough to be my mother. Hermione laughed. Brat, you are quite good at pretending. At this time, Harry also looked over. Harry was a serious person. He didn't think much until he saw a few familiar people and was suddenly surprised. Why is Professor McGonagall with the Minister of Magic? Yes, Madame Rosmerta went out to greet them in style. The big shot, Minister of Magic Fudge, was sitting in a gorgeous carriage. Ordinary guests don't get this kind of treatment. She was greeted by Madame Rosmerta, the proprietress of the Three Broomsticks. Not only was there Professor McGonagall, but there was also Hagrid, who was nearly twice as tall as an ordinary person. Hagrid is now a professor at Hogwarts, so it's not surprising that he came to Hogsmeade. Minister of Magic Fudge and Madame Rosmerta are old acquaintances. It's unclear whether they have an affair, but the two sides seem to be very familiar with each other. I wish you a prosperous business, Madame Rosmerta. Madame Rosmerta complained to Minister of Magic Fudge, if you don't let your Dementors come to search every night, then my bar's business will naturally be good. It can be seen that not only Hogwarts has been frequently harassed by Dementors recently, but also the Three Broomsticks. Minister of Magic Fudge said, we have received a tip-off that Sirius Black has come to Hogsmeade. This name, like Voldemort, will make wizards panic. Madame Rosmerta asked in surprise, why did he come here after escaping from prison? Isn't this delaying their business? Minister of Magic Fudge said bluntly, he is here for Harry Potter. Harry Potter? Madame Rosmerta was even more surprised. Professor McGonagall, who was standing by, saw that Minister of Magic Fudge was speaking without considering the occasion, and said, let's talk inside the house. That's right, this way, please come in. Madame Rosmerta immediately led everyone in. Harry, what are you going to do? Ron saw that Harry was anxious, and he picked up the invisibility cloak and rushed out. I'm going to see. Sirius Black actually came to Hogsmeade, and he came for him, so Harry must not sit and wait for death. Hermione, are you going too? After Harry left, Hermione also stood up, which made Ron very distressed. Hermione said, I'm going to the bathroom. Then Hermione left. In the original play, Ron and Hermione chased to the door of the Three Broomsticks, but were kicked out because they were underage. They could only complain that the doorman was rude. Here, Ron was soon left alone. Alas, he was so lonely. Harry couldn't suppress his mood. Everything was caused by Sirius Black. If he hadn't escaped from prison, there wouldn't be so many Dementors coming out to catch him. Without Dementors, Hogwarts and Hogsmeade wouldn't have encountered so many troubles. Ordinary wizards really can't stand the harassment of Dementors. New hatred plus old grudges. Harry must find out. He put on the invisibility cloak and followed into the Three Broomsticks. It was very lively inside, with people drinking everywhere. Professor McGonagall, Minister of Magic Fudge, as well as Madame Rosmerta and Hagrid, all went up to the second floor. Harry followed them. Hermione didn't want to get involved, but the system option was unwilling to be lonely. There was no other way, so she could only put on the invisibility cloak and follow. Fortunately, she didn't need to do anything excessive, just go over and join in the fun to complete the task. As a martial arts master, after entering the Three Broomsticks, Hermione could clearly sense the existence of the invisible Harry. But Harry couldn't sense the existence of Miss Hermione, because Hermione's invisibility cloak has more comprehensive functions. It can hide breath, footsteps and heartbeats. Even Voldemort can hardly find the invisible Hermione. Arriving on the second floor, Professor McGonagall was responsible for closing the door. It can be seen that Professor McGonagall was more cautious among this group of people. Okay, now you can tell me why Sirius Black came to Hogsmeade for Harry Potter? Ms. Rosmerta was very curious. Professor McGonagall actually said, this matter takes a long time to explain, but one thing I can say clearly is that Sirius Black is actually Harry Potter's godfather. Harry, who was invisible in this room, was stunned. He knew that Sirius Black was his enemy, but he never expected that Sirius Black was actually his godfather. Godfather is very sacred. One refers to the person who gives a baby or child a Christian name when he or she is baptized and guarantees to take care of his or her religious education. The second refers to the beginning of teaching. The third refers to the authoritative theologians and formulating or expounding doctrines in Christianity from the 2nd to the 12th century. Chapter 232 Awakening, Hunting Time. Harry learns the Patronus charm. Harry Potter's godfather is undoubtedly Harry's godfather. He is the guardian truly recognized by Harry's parents, and not everyone can be a godfather. And then, the conversation between Miss Rosmerta, Minister of Magic Fudge, and Professor McGonagall hurt Harry Potter again. Harry's godfather, Harry's parents' best friend, and the most trusted person, Sirius Black. He actually betrayed Harry's parents and caused them to be killed by Voldemort. At the same time, there was a good friend of theirs, Peter Pettigrew, who only had one finger left after his death. The cruelty of the means is simply outrageous. It was such a vicious criminal who successfully escaped from Azkaban and came to kill Harry Potter in order to be loyal to his master, the mysterious man Voldemort. Harry Potter was invisible and heard this. He was so angry that his whole body trembled, and his fists were clenched until his bones turned white. The hatred for Sirius Black almost reached its peak. Harry's breath became thicker, and it was obvious that he was about to be exposed. Miss Hermione Granger, who was also invisible in this room, had a transparent system screen pop up in front of her. Option 1. Let Harry release his boundless anger. set a fire, and burn the 3 broomsticks. Completion of the task will reward you with a gasoline barrel. Option 2, wake up, hunting time, no one present is innocent, detonate 100 kilograms of explosives on the spot, and die together. Completion of the task will reward you with a large exquisite jade urn. Option 3, my fate is in my own hands, help Harry escape from here successfully. Completion of the task will reward you with basic attributes +1. Option 3 is still reliable. Option 1 is the choice of the villain. Option 2 is the choice of an idiot. Hermione doesn't want the urn or the oil barrel, she only wants basic attribute points. It's still very simple to help Harry leave. Hermione is cautious and professional. Since she entered this room, she has been very close to the window, ready for unexpected situations at any time. At this moment, Harry was too excited and was about to be exposed. Hermione cast a spell directly. She did not use a wand, but released the spell with her hands. A cat sleeping under the window suddenly flew to the windowsill. This cat would never dream that it would be able to fly one day. The cat woke up from its sweet dream, and its hair stood up naturally. Then it ran away and made a cat cry. This very abrupt scene naturally attracted the attention of everyone in the house. When everyone looked over, Harry also woke up from his anger. He quickly looked for an opportunity to successfully leave here. He did not expect that the cat was teased by Miss Hermione, so that Harry was not exposed. After leaving the 3 broomsticks, Harry's mood was still unstable. He thought that the murderer who killed his parents was actually his godfather. Such an ironic thing. How could it happen to him? What is the difference between this and recognizing a thief as a father? How could Sirius Black be so cruel? Moreover, one of their good friends, Peter Pettigrew, was killed with only 1 finger left. Such a demon could be Harry's godfather. What sins did he commit in his previous life? In this life, he had to torture Harry in such a cruel way. Harry was in a state of panic. There was a choir on the road to Hogsmeade Village, and Harry ran into them directly, just like playing bowling, and everyone exclaimed. But Harry was invisible, and no one could find him. Ron waited anxiously, and finally waited for Miss Hermione. Hermione explained briefly. There was a traffic jam in the toilet. That's why Hermione was delayed for so long. Traffic jam? Toilet. Ron didn't react for a while. There was a traffic jam in the toilet. What kind of toilet is this? Is it so awesome? Of course, Hermione didn't explain much. Did you see Harry come out just now? Ron shook his head, and at this moment, the choir that was dispersed complained. It seems that Harry has come out. Let's follow him. Hermione pointed to the new footprints on the ground. There were no roads in the world, but when more people walked, they became roads. Today, Hogsmeade Village is naturally very lively, with many pedestrians and complicated footprints. However, there is another detail seen in Hogsmeade Village today. It is snowing. The new snowflakes not only bring the indescribable artistic conception of snowflakes, but also successfully cover the hurried footprints left by the previous pedestrians. New footprints can be left on the new snow, although not as clear as those left on the white snow that has never been stepped on. They can still be seen. Harry broke down emotionally. He bumped into more than one pedestrian, which is the general direction, and the route he left was becoming clearer and clearer, because Harry went to a place with fewer people. Let's catch up. Hermione acted decisively, but Ron, who had been outside just now, had not figured out the facts and reasons. He asked in surprise, "What happened to Harry?" Hermione said perfunctorily without turning her head, "I was in the toilet just now. How should I know?" That's right, Hermione was stuck in traffic in the toilet just now. Ron always felt that this sentence sounded so strange, but the pursuit was urgent, and he didn't have time to think too much. Besides, Miss Hermione was a female academic master. She was well read. Maybe this was a new word. Ron had not read many books, so it was understandable that he didn't understand it. In an uninhabited grove, snow fell from the branches, and there was a big stone below. Someone sat on it, leaving a clear butt mark. Because the person sitting down was invisible, the mark on the snow was naturally clear. Ron didn't have time to sigh that Harry's butt was big. If it was a woman, it would be easy to give birth to a son. Hermione walked up and directly pulled off Harry's invisible cloak. Harry. What's wrong with you? Hermione pretended to be unaware. Hermione's acting skills were so natural that it was impossible to doubt it. Harry was crying. After all, he was still a child. When his emotions collapsed to the extreme, he had no way to vent and take revenge, so he could only cry out of grievance. Harry. Ron was also surprised, but seeing Harry like this, he felt very uncomfortable. You followed him. What did you hear? Ron was not stupid. It must be about the matter between Sirius Black and his parents. Harry did not hide it either. He could not stop crying and complained. What kind of godfather is he? He killed my parents and brutally killed his friends. I will kill him if I see him. This was the first time Harry showed that he hated someone so much. Although Voldemort was the real murderer of Harry's parents, a person like this who betrayed and killed friends and was also Harry Potter's godfather was even more hateful. After Harry calmed down, he told Ron and Hermione all of the reasons. Hermione thought about it. Should she tell Harry the truth in advance? In fact, Sirius Black was wronged, and the real traitor was someone else. But after thinking about it, she decided to forget it. Anyway, the truth would definitely come out, so why should she bother with it? And it would be troublesome to explain. After leaving Hogsmeade Village for a trip, Harry, Ron and Hermione returned to Hogwarts. The Dementors were still wandering around the school. Professor Lupin seemed to be in much better condition, and he also had some free time. That day, Harry came to Professor Lupin to learn the Patronus charm against Dementors. Chapter 233. This child has been smart since childhood. Boggart's tears. Professor Lupin seemed to have been waiting for a long time. He was not surprised to see Harry coming. He asked, "Harry, are you ready?" Harry said seriously, "I must learn the spell to deal with Dementors." Good. Very impressive. He was very enthusiastic about learning. That's how it should be. The dull teaching method was not what Professor Lupin wanted. The two of them didn't know that there was a third person in this teaching room besides Harry and Professor Lupin. Miss Hermione, who was invisible. In fact, Hermione felt that she didn't need to be invisible. With her beauty that brought disaster to the country and her charming temperament that everyone loved, she could have a private class with Harry. Why do you have to be sneaky? Learning the Patronus charm is not something shameful. There is no need to do this, but the system option doesn't think so. It may be for Miss Hermione's consideration, since she likes to add points to low-key, without thinking. It is enough to prove that she likes to be low-key and not show off. In this case, wouldn't it be better to be invisible and not be discovered by outsiders? Among the three options, Hermione still honestly chose to hide and learn secretly. There is no tuition fee for stealing. Hermione is really a little genius. Harry has been smart since he was a child, and Hermione, who was hiding at the side, was very optimistic about him. Harry, there is a secret to learning the Patronus charm. You have to imagine your happiest thing in your heart. Remember, it must be the happiest thing. Professor Lupin patted the box he sat on. Poor Boggart, it used a broken wardrobe last time and an old box this time. Its living place is really simple. Are you ready, Harry? Harry was a little nervous. He took out his wand and nodded. As an excellent teacher, Professor Lupin continued to guide Harry. Close your eyes and recall a happy past. Concentrate your mind and explore your past. Do you have any memories? Let it envelop you. Immerse yourself in it, and then say the spell. Expectropicium. Hermione, who was hiding at the side, felt that not only was Harry smart since he was a child, but she was also smart since she was a child. Professor Lupin only taught it once and she remembered it. However, Miss Hermione is a very cautious and careful person. In order to be 100% reliable, she even took out her smartphone and recorded this precious Patronus charm teaching. It was still high-definition 8K 24-frame shooting. Professor Lupin and Harry would never have thought that they were secretly filmed by Miss Hermione. Miss Hermione suddenly had a brainwave. In this wizarding world, she has the most advanced mobile phone, but no network. If the powerful and invincible system provides Hermione with an extra-dimensional network, for example, Hermione can use this mobile phone to connect to the world before she traveled through time. In this case, wouldn't Miss Hermione be able to live broadcast? Old Iron. Double-click 666. Family. Quickly vote. I am now bringing you the latest first-person perspective of Professor Lupin teaching Harry the Patronus charm, live broadcast. Thank you for the carnival sent by the first brother on the list. Give the first brother on the list a little attention. Hermione felt that she seemed to be making a lot of money by live broadcasting like this, but she didn't know if the system brother was willing to give her this opportunity. And I felt that if I could connect to the network of my hometown before traveling through time, even if Hermione takes a random photo here, it can become a hot topic on the internet in another world. The traffic is guaranteed. Professor Lupin and Harry certainly don't know that Ms. Hermione, who has a wild imagination, is thinking about ways to make money in business. At this moment, Professor Lupin directly opened the old box. This time, the boggart seems to have experience, and it immediately turns into a terrifying Dementor. Fortunately, Miss Hermione is hiding far away. Otherwise, when the boggart sees the beautiful Miss Hermione, it is estimated that another Ragnarok will be staged. Although it feels that Hermione has a very scary big secret, she is a person who thinks open-mindedly. Since the answer cannot be known at present, it is better to wait for time to tell. Thinking about it yourself will only waste brain cells. The Dementor has a refrigerator property, and the temperature in the room instantly becomes much colder. Harry raised his wand and began to chant the spell frantically, expecto patronum, but he failed. The Dementor pounced directly in front of him. Even if this Dementor was fake, it would still make Harry feel that something was missing in his body instantly. At the same time, his brain also made him hear what he least wanted to hear, the screams of his mother before she died. When Harry woke up, he was lying in Professor Lupin's arms. You will feel better if you eat this. Professor Lupin seemed to have a lot of chocolates. Seeing Harry's loss of happiness, he would give him a piece of chocolate. Harry did not refuse. He sighed while eating. The Dementors are still too scary, Professor Lupin said. It's not a Dementor, it's just a boggart that can transform. Harry, it's normal to fail the first time. You know, the Patronus charm is one of the most difficult spells to learn. Harry felt a little comforted, but he thought that if the female academic Hermione was here, with her intelligence, she should be able to learn the Patronus charm faster. Harry, what did you just recall? Professor Lupin asked. Obviously, according to his observation just now, Harry had no problem waving his wand and reciting the spell, so why couldn't the Patronus charm be used? The problem should be in Harry's heart. He didn't imagine something happy enough. Harry answered, I just recalled the first time I rode on a flying broom and flew in the sky. Professor Lupin nodded, indicating that he could understand. Boys all like to fly and like the feeling of flying. The first time I rode on a broom, it is indeed a happy thing, but it is obviously not enough for the Patronus charm. Harry, you must recall happier and more joyful things. Professor Lupin imparted the core experience. Remember, you must have the will to protect it. Protect, that's right. In addition to being happy, you must protect. Harry nodded and said seriously, Professor, I understand. Very good. Professor Lupin stood up and began to direct. Start. Prepare the wand. Harry closed his eyes, and a picture that made him feel happy, warm and happy from the inside out appeared in his mind instantly. Even if everything was fake, it doesn't matter. The happiest thing, there is no better than this. Expecto patronum. Harry read out the spell loudly, and at this moment the powerful temperament of a wizard burst out from Harry, which was very eye-catching. The box was opened, and the boggart flew out. After it turned into a Dementor again, it cried. They were both living beings, so why should Harry be the protagonist, while it could only be a foil, used to train Harry to learn magic? But Harry, this brat, succeeded the second time. The huge and dazzling white light of the Patronus charm burst out directly from the top of Harry's wand, as if it could protect everything, and directly bounced the Dementor outside, making it impossible to get close. Harry was very excited. Teacher, I succeeded. Professor Lupin also clapped happily. Harry, well done. The boggart returned to the box with tears in his eyes, and then it didn't even have a chance to appear. While Professor Lupin was happy for Harry, he asked curiously, Harry, what did you remember this time? Chapter 234, The Horrible Beginning. Hagrid is playing with water. Harry was so happy that he didn't hide anything when Professor Lupin asked him, This time I recalled my mother and my father, and imagined them talking to me. Whether it was true or false, it was the most beautiful. That's right, that was the false picture Harry saw through the mirror of eras in the first grade. This magic mirror can reflect what people desire most in their hearts. Hermione saw her hometown. Harry saw his parents by his side. What Ron saw 2 years ago was his and Hermione's future wedding. I have to say that this kid is still very promising in some aspects. Zhonghua was admitted to BJ University. Li Ping entered the secondary technical school. I am a salesperson in a department store. We all have a bright future. Professor Lupin sighed. Indeed, this shows that family is very important to you. Come, sit down and eat this. Your performance is comparable to your father. Professor Lupin saw that Harry was so outstanding and thought of his father. After all, good friends are lifelong friends. Ms. Hermione, she felt that she could leave. She came invisibly and left invisibly. No one knew that she had come quietly. As long as the task is completed, it will be fine. Congratulations on completing the optional task. Reward basic attribute +1. She must have come here with good benefits. Open the system attribute panel. Magic +57, Health +51, Loki +53, Agility +52, Defense +55, Strength +49, Stealth +45, Pretty +8, Charm +8, Body +8, Skin +8, Wisdom +8, Gentleness +1, Soul +1, Optimism +1, Teasing +1, Good Guy +1, Painter +1. Think about how I was alone at the beginning of my journey, with only an admission letter I picked up. And now, I have such a terrifying ability to make decisions for eternity, which is not easy. In addition to attribute points, there are countless gold, powerful hot weapons, magic wands of wind sorrow, bouncing bombs, assassin weapons of venomous snakes, space rings, magic books, ominous signs, invisibility cloaks, witch cloaks, a corner of the magic stone, pink flying brooms, time converter, Tathagata palm, etc. There are also barbecue skewers, fried chicken wings, self-heating hot pots, Sprite and cola, delicious cakes and other delicacies. If Hermione, Lin Qingyun, travels through time again at this time, such as the world of Naruto, the world of Marvel movies, the world of Detective Conan, the world of Buo Continent, the world of Zanshin, the world of Dupo Kangqiang, etc., then Hermione's start will no longer be a simple admission letter. Instead, it is a terrifying and arbitrary start. Thinking about it, I am a little excited. Being cultivated by the funny system, Miss Hermione usually has a lot of ideas and has thought about everything. The universe has no boundaries, so imagination also has no boundaries. Hermione uses the time converter, and goes out alone to practice spells, fearing that people will suspect her. But as long as Hermione goes back to the past and has a few more hours than others, then there will be no problem. Originally, Professor McGonagall gave Hermione the time converter so that Hermione could have more time than others to study. After going back 1 hour, Harry was learning the Patronus charm with Professor Lupin, and the self at that time was secretly filming and studying. As long as Hermione, who went back to the past, did not go back to the past and was discovered, there would be no problem at all. In this way, Hermione, who went back to the past, swaggered into the dark forest. The deep woods are always the most hidden. She took out her wand and imagined happy things in her heart. After traveling to this wizarding world, the thing that made Ms. Hermione happiest was actually eating, drinking and having fun. This was the happiest thing. There is no doubt that after reciting the spell, Hermione failed in her first attempt like Harry. It seems that trying to take shortcuts is not going to work. In fact, Hermione just wanted to experiment. Since it didn't work, she would take it seriously. In her mind, she recalled her hometown before the time travel. It was the original dream of a person. She imagined a beautiful thing. She waved her wand and chanted the spell, Expectropicium. The tip of Hermione's wand also burst into brilliant white light. Hermione knew that she had succeeded. This was the Patronus charm. Well done, Hermione. Hermione praised herself. No one applauded, but she applauded herself. No one gave me chocolate, but I had chocolate myself. It was nothing more than enduring loneliness. It was no big deal. After learning the Patronus charm, Hermione came out in a swagger. On the way, she met Ron, a dog who seemed to be looking for something and looked very troubled. Hermione didn't want to pay attention to him, but since she saw him, it was not easy to leave directly. "What are you looking for?" Ron immediately said. "My mouse Scabbers is missing." In the original movie, Ron also blamed Hermione, because in the original movie, Hermione had a cat, Crookshanks. Ron felt that his mouse was missing and must have been eaten by Hermione's cat. Meanwhile, Hermione, who traveled through time, had never kept a pet because she was lazy and afraid of trouble. Therefore, even if Ron wanted to blame him, he couldn't find a reason. Hermione knew that Ron's mouse was not a good thing, so she joked, it might have jumped off the building because it was upset. Ron believed Hermione's words very much, and asked, "Scabbers, why would it be upset?" Hermione didn't expect that this silly boy would take it seriously. She sighed and said, "How should I know? Maybe it was kissed by the Dementors last night." The Dementors can absorb happiness, and your mouse can no longer feel happiness, so it is depressed and upset. Ron seemed to have been enlightened. Dementors can also absorb the happiness of mice. Hermione was too lazy to make up any more stories. Just at this time, Harry came over with a happy face. "You are all here, Harry. What were you doing just now?" Ron blamed again. "My mouse is gone. I went to look for you, and you were gone too." Harry did not hide anything. "I went to learn spells from Professor Lupin." "Your mouse is very smart. It should have gone out to play and will be back in a few days." Harry comforted him normally. Ron said with a bitter face, "But Hermione said that my spotted mouse was kissed by the Dementors." So he was depressed and couldn't think straight. Harry couldn't help laughing. "Ron, you are also too concerned. Hermione is obviously joking." "Can't you hear that?" Harry thought of something important and said, "By the way, Hagrid is back. Let's go to Hagrid and ask about the hippogriff." Okay. The hippogriff was so pitiful. It was brought by Hagrid to teach a class on care of magical creatures. It was because of Malfoy's provocation that it stepped on Malfoy's arm and ribs. Since then, the hippogriff has been locked up. Harry had close contact with the hippogriff. He could feel that the hippogriff was a friendly animal and it should not be punished for Malfoy's rudeness. So, the three-person adventure team acted together again. When they arrived at the place where Hagrid lived, they learned through questioning that Hagrid had gone to the lake to relax. Has Hagrid also been kissed by the Dementors and is so upset? Ron was opened up to a new world by Hermione, causing him to think that everyone was kissed by the Dementors. After all, Harry had been attacked by the Dementors twice, and Ron was there. "Don't talk nonsense. Isn't Hagrid fine?" Harry saw from a distance that the tall Hagrid was standing alone by the vast lake, skipping tiles on the water. He is so old, but he is still skipping tiles so childishly. "Wait a minute, I want to play too. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone." Chapter 235 Crow on a Plane? Ron's Nightmare. It was a nice day. The lake was sparkling, reflecting the blue sky and white clouds. The surrounding scenery was like a beautiful painting. Miss Hermione's system popped up a window again to stir things up. Option 1. Use magic to skip stones on the water, and require to shoot 200 meters away like an electromagnetic cannon. Completion of the task will reward an electromagnetic cannon. Option 2. Throw Ron out and skip stones on the water, and ensure that Ron can set a Guinness World Record on the lake. Completion of the task will reward a Guinness World Record certificate. Option 3. I will just watch and not say anything. Completion of the task will reward a large piece of fried chicken. There is nothing new about options 1 and 3. Option 2 is quite alternative and unique. First, use a petrification spell to harden Ron, and then wave and throw it to skip stones on the water. The scene is exciting just to think about. It will definitely shock Harry and Hagrid to death. Of course, such an outstanding option is too avant-garde, and Hermione will certainly not choose it. It's better to be conservative and choose option 3. Watching quietly and not speaking can complete the task. Nothing is easier than this. "You are here." Hagrid was still able to maintain the most basic etiquette, although he did not look very energetic. "How was the hearing?" Hagrid? Harry did not say much nonsense and went straight to the point. They did not come here just to see Hagrid. Hagrid also understood the friendliness of the three little guys. He threw the tiles in his hand, and the water rippled on the lake in circles. The wind brought the smell of the lake from afar, gently brushing the hair by people's ears. Everything around seemed so soft. But then Hagrid was going to tell a heartbreaking story. The committee members took turns to talk about the problem. The question is, why is this hearing being held? This sounded a little ironic. Ron, Harry and Hermione did not interrupt him, and continued to listen to Hagrid's narration quietly. Congratulations on completing the Option 3 task, and reward a large piece of fried chicken. Hermione can complete the task without speaking. Then I made a statement. I said that the hippogriff was a good animal, it would clean its feathers, and it would know how to go home when it trained. Then Lucius spoke. The result is predictable. He said that the hippogriff was a deadly creature that would kill people. Without any hesitation, Lucius demanded the most severe punishment. Under Hagrid's tall body, he seemed to be narrating this matter calmly, but in fact he was quite broken inside. No one could imagine how helpless he was at that time. Even if I don't talk 3 inches, it's hard to shake the 3-foot sword in the hand of the thief. Not to mention, Hagrid's eloquence itself is limited. Ron said worriedly, they can't fire you. Compared with the fate of the hippogriff, Ron was more worried about Hagrid's fate. Hagrid heard it, and his mood was extremely complicated. He was originally a simple person, but the problem he faced now was not simple. Hagrid said sadly, no, I was not expelled, but the hippogriff was sentenced to death. As he said that, Hagrid, this big guy, cried directly. Tears were so helpless. Hagrid's water-skipping exercise turned into moving a big stone and throwing it into the lake. With a splash, the water splashed everywhere. It seemed that a lot of negative emotions were vented, but in fact, no problem was fundamentally solved. Hagrid is so pitiful. Ron, Harry and Hermione talked on the way back. The hippogriff is even more pitiful. It was Malfoy who was rude, but the hippogriff had to pay the price of his life. This is so unfair. Hermione said, calm down. There are too many unfair things in this world. Don't be impulsive and do stupid things, which will make things worse. Isn't the result bad enough now? Ron grew up and dared to ask the goddess Hermione back. Just as Hermione was about to answer, a system option popped up in front of her. Option 1. Use a crow to fly down from the sky to let Ron know what terrible consequences will be if he offends me. Complete the task and get an AK-47 as a reward. Option 2. Tell Harry and Ron about your plan, and wait until the day when the hippogriff is executed, and then use a surprise trick to rescue it. Complete the task and get a notebook as a reward. Option 3. Silence is the most powerful answer. Complete the task and get 1 kilogram of gold as a reward. Crows on the plane? Hermione felt that it was inappropriate for such a delicate girl like herself to use this trick, so she chose option 3. Silence is the most powerful. Sure enough, when Hermione stopped talking, Ron immediately realized the seriousness of the problem. He looked a little embarrassed and said, sorry, Hermione, I didn't mean that. Harry watched quietly. Ron's days as a lick dog were not 1 or 2 days. Hermione continued to remain silent, until the system prompted, congratulations on completing option 3, reward 1 kilogram of gold. Then he said, it's getting late, see you tomorrow. Hermione didn't want to play with Harry and Ron anymore. She didn't want the system to pop up another crow flying on a plane. Looking at Hermione's back as she left, Ron said with some distress, is Hermione angry with me? Harry felt that Ron was being sentimental, so he comforted him. Don't think too much. Hermione is not a petty person. That's right. The goddess's stomach can support a boat. How could she be angry over such a small matter? On the way back, Miss Hermione stepped on something with her feet, and she squatted down to pick it up. A colorful pebble. This color, this shape, so unique. Hermione knew that it must be her good luck that was 10% more than ordinary people, and she picked up the equipment. If she didn't pick it up, it would appear directly in her pocket tomorrow. In order to avoid being scared, she should pick it up. I hope it's not a dinosaur egg or something. Harry didn't sleep when it was late at night. His wand was very unique, and the front end was like a small light bulb emitting white light. This was a small magic. In his other hand, he held the Marauder's map. For Harry, this map was as interesting as playing with his mobile phone in the middle of the night. Hermione, Hermione, I love you. Not far away, Ron was talking in his sleep. Harry shook his head after hearing this. Alas, adolescent boys are hopeless. Ah, there's a spider. Ron's dream suddenly turned into a nightmare, and he began to scream in fear. There's a spider, and the spider wants to tap dance with me, and I don't want to tap dance. Ron sat up, feeling like sleepwalking. It seems that compared to love, the most feared thing in his heart makes Ron care more. Harry couldn't help laughing. He looked at Ron stupidly, as if he was awake but not awake at the same time, so he counseled him, since you don't want to tap dance with spiders, then talk to them. Yes, tell them, I'll tell them. Ron closed his eyes and lay down to sleep again. Maybe he really told the spiders in his nightmare, so his nightmare turned into a sweet dream again. Hermione, Hermione, I like you. This kid is hopeless. Harry sighed and ignored him. The night became darker. Harry yawned, and was about to lie down to sleep. Just as he was about to close the Marauder's map, an unbelievable string of names suddenly appeared on the map. It was Peter Pettigrew. How is this possible? Isn't he dead? Chapter 236. Deep Well Ice and Brainless Film, The Mysterious Figure of Peter Pettigrew in the Castle. Harry didn't have Alzheimer's, so he could remember very clearly that when he was in Hogsmeade, in the Three Broomsticks, the Minister of Magic, Professor McGonagall and others clearly talked about how Peter Pettigrew was dead and only had one finger left. So, what was going on now? Did he have hallucinations? Was it too late? Too tired? Harry rubbed his eyes, but he could still clearly see the footprints of Peter Pettigrew moving on the yellowed Marauder's map. Pretend you didn't see it and start to sleep? Of course Hermione couldn't do that. Peter Pettigrew's death was related to the death of Harry Potter's parents. How could he pretend he didn't see it? Harry Potter was too nervous, so he took his wand and the Marauder's map and went to check on Peter Pettigrew. If he had been half as careful as the beautiful Miss Hermione, he would have put on the invisibility cloak. The beautiful Miss Hermione also had a nightmare. In her dream, she seemed to have traveled to another world. She became a god, and the savior who saved the world. For the cautious and unshowy Miss Hermione, this was a nightmare. After waking up from the nightmare, Hermione planned to turn over and continue to sleep. Even if she might continue to have nightmares after falling asleep, she would not sleep in the middle of the night. Could she get up and dance? Unexpectedly, because she woke up, the system options immediately popped up. Option 1. Get up quickly, put on the invisible cloak to watch a good show, follow the map navigation prompts, and go to the task point. Complete the task to reward basic attributes +1. Option 2. Why sleep? Get up and have fun. It is required to set off the most gorgeous fireworks over Hogwarts and dance the most exciting dance. Complete the task to reward 1 piece of Deep Well Ice. Option 3. Get up, climb the window of the boys' dormitory, and go to Ron for a date. Complete the task to reward 1 box of Brain-Dead movies. Interesting. In the middle of the night, the system options are simply not a person. Is it a shot to make up the number? Option 2 and Option 3. Is this something a person can choose? Let's not talk about how this task is, just the reward alone. Isn't it a bit insulting? 1 block of Deep Well Ice, 1 box of Brain-Dead films. Hermione felt that she could wholesale a box of retarded pills to the system to replenish its brain. Complaints are complaints, but work still needs to be done. Hermione could only get up, look at her flawless and tender skin under the moonlight, sigh, and then get dressed. Even though there should be no Voldemort in the movie this year, it is still necessary to be cautious. Put on the ominous sign and the witch cloak, and finally put on the invisibility cloak and go out. Holding a mint in the mouth, it refreshes and wakes up the mind. The invisibility cloak can isolate odors, so Hermione does not need to worry about the smell of the mint candy. On Harry Potter's side, he did not expect that because of his actions, the beautiful Hermione on the other side was forced to get up and work overtime. Fortunately, Miss Hermione still has Option 1, and she can complete the task by just watching a good show. Otherwise, Miss Hermione would have comforted Harry's 18 generations of ancestors in her heart. At night in Hogwarts, as long as it doesn't rain, the moon is bright in the sky most of the time, and the moonlight falls on the ancient castle, creating a quiet and mysterious atmosphere. Harry ran out and then remembered that he forgot to take the invisibility cloak. It's late at night. If he is caught, he will probably be deducted points again. But it's too late to go back and get it now. Harry must find out whether the Peter Pettigrew on the Marauders map is real or fake. In the quiet corridor, Harry's wand lit up a small light, which was a little dazzling in the darkness. Hogwarts Castle has existed for thousands of years, and the walls of the corridors are covered with portraits, and the characters in these portraits can speak. When they were sleeping in the world in the portraits in their pajamas, Harry appeared with a dazzling wand light, which naturally disturbed their good dreams. Turn off the lights. A middle-aged man dressed as an Earl ordered Harry in the portrait. I'm sorry. Harry apologized politely and walked over quickly, while avoiding his wand lamp getting too close to the wall. It was impossible to turn off the lights, and Harry didn't have night vision. If he turned off the lights, he wouldn't be able to see anything. The dark corridor began to become so quiet that it made people a little scared, mainly nervous. Harry looked down at the Marauders map in his hand. On the same road, on his side and in front of the darkness on the opposite side, there were Harry Potter and Peter Pettigrew, respectively. However, what surprised Harry was that suddenly on the Marauders map, just 2 meters behind him, the name of Miss Hermione Granger suddenly flashed by. What's going on? Is there a bug in this Marauders map? Not only did Peter Pettigrew, a man who had died many years ago, appear like a ghost in the ancient castle of Hogwarts on the Marauders map tonight, even Miss Hermione Granger, who was sleeping in the girls' dormitory, unexpectedly appeared 2 meters behind him. This is impossible. Only 2 meters away? Miss Hermione can't be invisible. How could she appear behind me? Harry turned his head sharply, and sure enough, under the light of the wand, there was nothing behind him. Strange. Harry looked at the Marauders map again, and saw that the name of Hermione Granger had disappeared again, and her name appeared in the girls' dormitory. Are there 2 Hermiones? It's so weird. But at this moment, Harry had no time to think about Miss Hermione. He could only focus on the situation of Peter Pettigrew. In front of him, 10 meters, 8 meters, 6 meters, 5 meters. Harry's heart contracted, and he raised the glowing wand in his hand. At such a close distance, if there was someone across the corridor, he would definitely be able to see it. But, still empty. Unlike the name of Miss Hermione Granger, that just flashed by, the name of Peter Pettigrew was always on the Marauders map. But, 3 meters, 2 meters, 1 meter. Harry watched Peter Pettigrew pass by him on the Marauders map, but the corridor was empty. There was not even a ghost. All that could be heard was the sound of mice chirping and crawling. What on earth is going on? Harry's head was a big circle. His emotions at the moment were very complicated. 3 points of fear, 5 points of doubt, 1 point of anger, and 91 points of collapse. Congratulations on completing the Option 1 task. Reward basic attribute +1. Miss Hermione successfully completed the task. To be honest, she was also a false alarm. 100 precautions can lead to an oversight. She was already very careful, but she forgot that Harry still had the Marauders map in his hand. Just now, she almost exposed her position. Fortunately, Miss Hermione also has a magic weapon, Time Converter. In an instant Hermione used the Time Converter to go back to the past and sleep on the bed in the girls' dormitory. In this way, the Hermione who stayed here became a clone, and the Hermione who went back to the past was the main body. Therefore, only the main body will be displayed on Harry Potter's Marauders map, because the technical difficulty is too great. The Marauders map cannot display the clone. Regarding the Marauders map, in the original drama and movie, it can display Polyjuice Potion, or transform into Animagus, and even look like the invisibility cloak that Harry wears. It seems that Ms. Hermione's invisibility cloak is also unable to escape the display ability of the Marauders map. It seems that Ms. Hermione's invisibility cloak also needs to be upgraded, because there is a loophole in the Marauder's map. Of course, the Marauder's map is not omnipotent. First of all, it cannot display the superpowers of the time converter related to time confusion. At the same time, it cannot display the room of requirement and the chamber of secrets. There is also a small bug, that is, it cannot distinguish people with the same name. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237. Stand still, I'll buy you some oranges. Professor Snape's collapse. Harry's mood was full of frustration and confusion. There were too many strange and uncontrollable things tonight, but in the final analysis, it was related to the Marauder's map. If Harry hadn't been bored and looked at the Marauder's map tonight, there might not have been so many inexplicable things. So, people can't eat too much. Harry has blamed all the problems on the Marauder's map. It must have a bug that caused Harry to do so much useless work tonight. It can be said that time and energy were wasted in vain. Just when Harry was about to put away the Marauder's map and go home, he was surprised again, and this time it was very bad. Professor Snape, the famous poker face of Hogwarts, has won the most hated and feared professor for many years. Oh my god, it's so late, why is he here? Professor Snape's footprints on the map moved quickly, obviously rushing towards Harry. Without the invisibility cloak, it was almost impossible for Harry to escape at this time. There was only one way. Harry waved his wand, tapped the Marauder's map in his other hand, and exclaimed, "The prank is over." The simplified map on the Marauder's map immediately began to disappear, but it was not over yet. In the portrait of the person living on the wall, someone continued to complain, "Be careful, kid, don't disturb us when we sleep, okay?" Thinking that Professor Snape was coming, Harry turned off the small light on his wand. All of Harry's actions were seen by Hermione, but she was not going to participate. It was late, and she was going back to sleep. However, when Professor Snape arrived, the system really popped up another option. Like Harry Potter, Professor Snape lit up a small night light at the front of his wand, which was brighter and more dazzling than Harry's. In this quiet corridor, his serious and scary old face was extremely white. Under the light, Professor Snape's eyes were scrutinizing. "Potter, why are you not sleeping in the dormitory so late? What are you doing in the corridor?" Harry wanted to ask back, "So what are you doing here so late?" Harry soon thought of the answer. Perhaps Professor Snape is the teacher on duty tonight, responsible for patrolling the situation in Hogwarts Castle. On Miss Hermione's side, the system options have always been very sensitive to Professor Snape. As long as there is Professor Snape, the system options will definitely not let go. Option 1. Replace Harry to tell Professor Snape that he is having a tryst with Harry late at night. How about it, Professor, you old single dog? Are you jealous? Complete the task and reward basic attribute +1. Option 2. Tell Professor Snape, you stand here and don't move. I will buy you 2 oranges. Complete the task and reward 1 box of fresh oranges. Option 3. I am just here to watch the show. No need to say anything. Complete the task and reward 1 automatic pencil. It's really interesting. Option 1 is so exciting. It's so late, and you have a tryst with Harry. You can also take the opportunity to mock Professor Snape. After all, Professor Snape has been single for many years. Option 2 is more interesting. The series of buying oranges that Ms. Hermione memorized has a set of combos. I'm leaving. Writing over there the original sentence in back view was said by the father. 2 are enough for me. The rest are all yours in Camel's Eye. The old horse said to his grandson, go buy them. Come back soon so I can tattoo you. The widely circulated historical mother-in-law tattooing. Is my son cold? Do you want to eat? The classical Chinese text comes from Xiangji Zhuangji. However, the most famous one is buying oranges. After all, it was an elementary school textbook before Hermione traveled through time. and it can be said that everyone knows the story. I'm going to buy some oranges. You stay here and don't move. This sentence is still very profound. Hermione really wants to talk to Professor Snape, let him know how much she wants to buy him oranges, but considering that she doesn't want to expose her invisible state, forget it. Spare him this time. Option 3. Silence is golden. Although the reward is a little less, it is indeed in line with Miss Hermione's character. Congratulations on completing option 3, and you will be rewarded with a mechanical pencil. The reward was given quite quickly. Miss Hermione has her own little drama, which is different from Professor Snape and Harry. Harry certainly didn't understand that not far behind him, there was a stunning little beauty, Ms. Hermione. He was thinking about how to answer Professor Snape's questioning. The Professor Snape in front of him was the most famous, most difficult professor in Hogwarts. I'm sleepwalking. Harry obviously thought of the scene when he saw Ron sleepwalking before he came out tonight. It turns out that life needs to learn from it. Sleepwalking? It is obvious that Professor Snape is not satisfied with the countermeasures Harry came up with on the spur of the moment. Professor Snape directly and mercilessly accused with prejudice and arrogance. Why are you so much like your father, Potter? He used to be so arrogant, not following the rules, and wandering around the castle. You can scold yourself, but you can't take the opportunity to blame your father. Harry was not afraid of Professor Snape to begin with, and now he was even more furious. He answered loudly, "My father is not arrogant, and neither am I." Perhaps in order to make himself appear to have a certain moral high ground, Harry found something very rude about Professor Snape and said in a slightly calmer tone, "If you don't mind, please put down your wand." Professor Snape, who accused others of being rude and arrogant, had been holding his glowing wand against Harry's face since he caught Harry. It looked like a bad guy in the Muggle world holding a gun to the protagonist's forehead. It was quite rude. Professor Snape was silent for 2 seconds, and seemed to realize that he was not elegant enough and not gentlemanly enough. He lowered his wand slightly, but Professor Snape had no intention of letting Harry go. Professor Snape's eyes were like a radar detector, and he accurately discovered the extremely suspicious items in Harry's hand. "Take out what you have in your hand." Harry regretted that he did not put the Marauder's map into his pocket in time, but even if he put it in his pocket, it would still be suspicious. After all, even if the Marauder's map was folded, it was still quite large. Only Miss Hermione's space ring could perfectly hide it from being discovered. Sensing Harry's hesitation, Professor Snape ordered in a more serious voice, "Take out the things quickly." Harry could not withstand the pressure and reluctantly raised the Marauder's map in his hand. Although Professor Snape was the dean of the Slytherin branch, as the saying goes, everyone has their own expertise, and Professor Snape is not omnipotent. Harry had already closed the Marauder's map, hoping that Professor Snape would not be able to discover the secret of the Marauder's map. Professor Snape did not take it. He seemed to be on guard against what Harry took out. After all, Harry was no longer a first-year rookie, but a third-year veteran. If Harry used a prank magic prop to deliberately trick him, Professor Snape would be embarrassed on the spot. "What is this?" Professor Snape questioned. Harry's mind was not as flexible as Miss Hermione's. He answered, "Blank parchment." Professor Snape sneered. "Really? Then open it. In front of me." Chapter 238, Children only answer multiple-choice questions. Professor Lupin is shocked. Professor Snape, with his many years of vocational teaching experience, certainly did not believe that Harry had just an ordinary blank parchment in his hand. It was impossible for Harry to look for a toilet with a blank parchment in the middle of the night. "Don't say it." Professor Snape's inner complaints successfully activated Miss Hermione's funny system. Option 1. Yes, what Harry has in his hand is the legendary toilet paper. Although it is very expensive, it can be reused for energy saving and environmental protection. Complete the task option to reward 84 disinfectant 1 bottle. Option 2. Kick Professor Snape hard and take Harry away to escape on the spot. Complete the task to reward 1 mechanical watch. Option 3. Continue to remain silent. Thirsty? Quietly drink a bottle of milk. Complete the task to reward 1 laser searchlight. Children only do multiple choice questions. Adults want all. Hermione also thought, if all 3 options are completed, will she get 3 rewards at the same time? But it is obvious that Hermione's system is still a child at present, and she must honestly do multiple choice questions. Hermione couldn't use the laser searchlight, but this task was very suitable for her personality. She could complete the task perfectly without saying anything or doing anything and get a reward. Why not do it? Open it. Professor Snape emphasized his tone again. Of course, he didn't understand. Just now, he was almost kicked out by Miss Hermione. Harry had no choice but to face the difficult Professor Snape. Most students would have a natural fear of a mouse seeing a cat when they see a strict teacher. Harry reluctantly opened the Marauder's map. It was indeed a yellowed and rough blank parchment. Professor Snape waved the glowing wand in his hand with a confident look, and chanted the Panacea spell. Show your secret. This Panacea spell can generally open 85% of the secrets of ordinary spells. But it was very embarrassing. There was no movement on this blank parchment, as if Professor Snape was just acting awkwardly. After a while, just when Professor Snape was about to give up, the Marauder's map slowly showed some face and showed some reaction. Harry's heartbeat accelerated. He was worried that this magical map would be confiscated by Professor Snape. Fortunately, the content displayed was not a map, but a row of text, because Professor Snape was standing opposite. Even though the wand in his hand was glowing, the content he saw was upside down. As a professor, Snape had a lot of experience in punishing students. He said confidently, arrogantly and seriously, "Read the content above." That's right, letting Harry read it out himself would have a more effective punishment effect than Professor Snape reading it out himself. Harry was helpless. This Professor Snape was really difficult. Harry looked at the special text on the Marauder's map and began to read it out. Moonface, Wormtail, Padfoot, Bronx, 4 gentlemen, agreed Professor Snape, and at the same time, this magic parchment is a bit interesting. How does it know that it was Professor Snape who just read out the spell? Read it. But Professor Snape was eager to know the rest of the content. Harry looked up and looked at Professor Snape with innocent eyes. He also felt that this Marauder's map, which had existed for who knows how many years, was really unique. If he was an honest student, he would know that the following content should not be read out in front of Professor Snape. But it was obvious that in Harry's opinion, Professor Snape asked for it. Harry said loudly, at the same time, "Ask him not to stretch his big nose to meddle in other people's business." "Well, you bold little bastard, little cutie." Professor Snape was furious. He didn't expect Harry Potter to be so bold and insult him as a big nose in front of him. A high nose is a word to compliment people, but a big nose is not. Harry immediately retorted, "You asked me to read it." "It was indeed me who asked you to read it, but I didn't ask you to insult me with rude words." These are two concepts. Professor Snape could feel Harry Potter's full of malice, which made him most angry. However, just when Professor Snape was about to take the next step against Harry, another professor came behind him without anyone noticing. "Professor Snape, Harry?" Professor Snape was angry. Indeed, from Harry's angle, Professor Snape's nose seemed to be really bigger. Professor Snape waved the glowing wand in his hand and looked at Professor Lupin, who suddenly appeared behind him. It was really lively. Professor Snape began to use his humorous and sarcastic tone and said, "Well, Lupin, you are out for a walk so late, to enjoy the moonlight, and want to walk under the moonlight, right?" Professor Lupin was not angry at all. He knew that Professor Snape knew his secret. Professor Lupin was a werewolf, and he could not walk under the moonlight. Professor Snape was very rude, but Professor Lupin was not. Professor Lupin looked directly at Harry and asked, "Harry, are you okay?" It can be seen that Professor Lupin cares about Harry very much. This makes people have to doubt the real purpose of Professor Lupin coming to Hogwarts to teach defense against the dark arts this year. Without waiting for Harry to answer, Professor Snape said in an unstable mood, "Whether he is okay or not, that depends on the situation." Professor Snape was unethical and snatched the Marauder's map from Harry's hand. Harry was not prepared. He did not expect Professor Snape to be so shameless. A gentleman talks but does not use his hands, but he is good. Harry was very angry. The Marauder's map was as important to him as his invisibility cloak. If it was snatched away by Professor Snape tonight, it would be even more painful than having his phone taken away by the teacher. However, Harry still overestimated Professor Snape. Professor Snape's next move made Harry dumbfounded. Professor Snape snatched the Marauder's map from Harry's hand without martial ethics, and then handed it to Professor Lupin beside him. Ms. Hermione, who was watching the show in stealth and did not speak, was also dumbfounded. Hi, really hi. Could it be that Professor Snape did not know that Professor Lupin and Harry were actually in the same group? I just confiscated a rather strange gadget from Potter. Professor Lupin was also dumbfounded. Of course, he knew what Professor Snape handed over. You know, one of the authors of the Marauder's map was Professor Lupin back then. Looking at his work when he was young, Professor Lupin was full of emotion. In a blink of an eye, the world has changed. His old friends have died or been injured, and his old friend's son Harry Potter has grown up. Look, Lupin, this should be your specialty. Obviously, it is full of black magic. Professor Snape was just insulted by the Marauder's map and Harry Potter. He was very angry, so at this moment, he could only rely on the power of Professor Lupin to crack this ghost thing. Professor Snape also saw the insulting words that Harry just read out. He knew that Harry was doing it on purpose, but he could do nothing about it, because it was the Marauder's map that insulted him. But Professor Snape had calculated everything, but he didn't expect that the person he sought help from, Professor Lupin, was one of the authors of the Marauder's map. I don't think so, Severus. This is just a special parchment. Whoever reads its contents will be humiliated. I guess this is Zocco's product. Professor Lupin spoke very well. He not only explained why Professor Snape was humiliated by a map, but also perfectly shirked the responsibility. He is obviously the author, but he put the blame on Zocco. It's really like a pot from the sky while you are sitting at home. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 239. Look what I caught. Zyur. Professor Snape suffered a critical hit. We don't know if Zocco is sneezing at this moment, and the director didn't say it, but Professor Lupin certainly won't feel guilty at this moment. Professor Snape's eyes flickered under the magic wand night light. Of course, he would not completely believe Professor Lupin's lies. Just now, he was out of his mind and chose to show the Marauder's map to Professor Lupin. At this moment, Professor Snape regretted it and wanted to take it back. As soon as he stretched out his hand, he didn't know that Professor Lupin had predicted Professor Snape's actions and quickly transferred the Marauder's map in his hand to his other hand. Professor Lupin is not going to return it? This behavior undoubtedly made Professor Snape feel quite depressed. Professor Snape, don't get me wrong. I should check if it has any hidden characteristics. As you said, this is my specialty. Professor Snape was speechless, unable to say his pain, and looked like he was hurt. But his brain was heating up and running like crazy, just trying to think of a countermeasure to successfully get back what belongs to him. Although this thing was also snatched from Harry Potter by Professor Snape without any moral integrity, Professor Lupin did not give Professor Snape a chance. He directly called out to Harry Potter, who was a little dazed, and said, "Harry, please follow me, okay?" Harry understood what Professor Lupin meant and immediately became happy. Is he going to run away? So cool. Harry seemed to be trying to piss off Professor Snape, and he actually said very politely, "Good night, Professor." Professor Snape held a glowing nightlight wand in his hand, and looked a little old. After watching the two bastards leave, Professor Snape felt a tight breath in his chest. However, there was another critical hit waiting for him. From Professor Snape's perspective, he seemed to have been fooled by Professor Lupin, and of course he was very depressed. However, there was far more than Professor Snape here. On the wall, the man in the painting who had been hanging himself on the southeast branch had just endured Harry's nightlight harassment. Then Professor Snape talked a lot with Professor Lupin and Harry, and the beautiful dream was completely awakened. "Are you deaf? Turn off the lights." Professor Snape's ears were ringing, and he had forgotten who he was and where he was. But the one who attacked Professor Snape was a historical figure who could not be provoked. Professor Snape felt even worse than eating a few flies. If it weren't for the aristocratic etiquette, Professor Snape would have even burst into a swearing. If he was just sulking in his chest just now, then Professor Snape would have been so angry that he would have vomited blood. His poker face was so angry that it was almost blue, but he had no choice but to swallow the anger that was about to explode. In his last stubbornness, Professor Snape turned around fiercely, and the sound of his sleeves was very loud. He left without looking back. After taking 2 steps, the wand in Professor Snape's hand went out. Miss Hermione thought that a good show was over, and when she was ready to finish and spread flowers, the system was unwilling to end it like this. The pop-up window options appear. Option 1. Look what I caught. Zyur. It requires wearing Ultraman's costume, sneak attack from behind, and pick up Professor Snape. Completing the task will reward you with 1 card capture Sakura magic card. Option 2. Open Professor Snape's bedroom door in the middle of the night to give him warmth, and ask to pour a pot of boiling water directly on his quilt. Children should not learn this. Completing the task will reward you with 1 prank medal. Option 3. While Professor Snape turns off the lights, in the dark corridor, send some banana peels to his feet. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, Prank, +1. It's really the most fun to kick someone when they're down. A small part of Hermione's demon soul is ready to move, although she is curious about what the card captor Sakura magic card is used for. Wearing Ultraman's costume, picking up Professor Snape from behind, and calling him Zyur. It's so embarrassing no matter how you think about it. She still has to keep some integrity. Hermione can't choose this. Option 2 can be tried. Send warmth. Ms. Hermione has always been very helpful, especially with the funny emoticons. Several armed personnel with submachine guns and missiles violently kicked the door, and then open the door to send warmth. It was too comical. The system is still too kind. It didn't ask Hermione to send a few grenades, mines, bombs, etc., just a pot of boiling water, which is really warm. It can warm Professor Snape for a whole night. If Hermione wants to live in another world one day, it's okay to make a crazy spoof before leaving, but now she still has to live in this wizarding world, and she still has to have face. So, it's option 3, be conservative. Although Hermione really wants to gently send the mines that have been treasured in the space ring to Professor Snape's feet, but the task requires only banana peels. So let's use banana peels. In order to achieve the ideal effect, Hermione quickly ate 2 bananas and greased the banana peels. Increase the lubrication. In order to avoid exposing herself, Hermione did not use any magic at all. She did it by hand, and performed physical skills, and sent it to Professor Snape's feet invisibly. Sorry, Professor Snape, I didn't want to do this either. It's all because of the task options. Professor Snape was angry. He was just scolded. Are you deaf? This sentence is really a bit heavy. You know, Professor Snape is the head of the Slytherin house, but he was scolded like this. In a rage, he turned off the lights even though it was pitch black at night. Professor Snape continued to walk forward with his memory, hoping that there would be no centipedes or spiders. In the castle, close to the forest, the chance of encountering such poisonous insects is still quite high. If he was bitten, even if Professor Snape knew witchcraft, he would inevitably feel pain. However, Professor Snape would never dream that Miss Hermione would be so considerate, not only giving him 2 banana peels in the dark, but also smearing them with oil. Ouch! Professor Snape felt something soft under his feet. What did he step on? Before he could react, he immediately lost his balance. His brain's balance system was broken. His body began to lean back uncontrollably and fell to the ground with a plop. It's been a long time since I've been so embarrassed. Professor Snape lay on the cold floor in the dark. In pain, aggrieved, and dazed, he seemed to be sighing about life. When a person is unlucky, even drinking cold water will get stuck in his teeth. When his brain and body felt better, Professor Snape slowly sat up from the darkness. With a simple spell, Professor Snape's wand turned into a nightlight again and lit up. There was oil and banana peels on the ground. This was clearly a trap, a prank, but such a simple prank brought Professor Snape down. Damn, if he found out that it was that student's prank, Professor Snape would have to expel him. It was so infuriating. Professor Snape stumbled away. Sure enough, people still cannot live without light. Light is so important. If Professor Snape hadn't turned off the light just now, how could he have fallen for such a simple trap? Chapter 240, Don't Say Anything. We are one family. Harry reveals the secret. Hermione couldn't understand Professor Snape's sadness. As the saying goes, no matter how great Chopin is, he can't play out my sadness. I'm afraid only Professor Snape knows how hurt he is. In short, in the darkness, his bleak back looked a little lonely from afar. It was late, and Miss Hermione wanted to go to bed. Although I was born beautiful, a good sleep can maintain healthy and elastic skin, but the system didn't seem to be sleepy, and a new task option popped up again. Option 1. Move Chopin's piano. Play a piece of Beethoven's Sadness in the Moonlight, in the castle. Complete the task and get a piano worth $1,000,000 as a reward. Option 2. Sing a song pointing to the moon with the left hand with the most beautiful voice at the end of the night, and shock the entire Hogwarts boys' dormitory. Complete the task and get the exclusive attribute, singing, +1 as a reward. Option 3. Go invisible to see what Harry and Professor Lupin are doing. Complete the task and get a lollipop as a reward. This is really a headache. Using Chopin's piano to play Beethoven's Sadness is very talented and unique. Absolutely. Option 2. Left hand pointing to the moon is quite nice, but it adds a line to shock the entire boys' dormitory. Are you kidding? If the boys in Hogwarts knew how to play memes, they would definitely say collectively, "Girl, don't shoot." Voice, guns. We are one family. Of course, the effect may not be bad. After all, Miss Hermione has a good foundation. Even if she has never sung with a soprano before, she is not to the extent of Don't Shoot One Family. Option 1 and Option 2 are obviously just for fun. Although the reward is richer than Option 3, the task is too difficult, mainly because it does not fit Miss Hermione's low-key and cautious personality. So Option 3 is almost the only thing Miss Hermione can do. Even if the reward is only a baseball candy. Let's go and take a look. Join in the fun. Harry and Professor Lupin certainly don't understand the sorrow of Miss Hermione, who is forced to open a business. They are still immersed in their own world and are not disturbed. If Miss Hermione had chosen any other option, they would definitely have been disturbed. Professor Lupin quickly got into the mood, full of emotions, and performed very well. He took Harry to an empty classroom, held up the Marauder's map in his hand, and began to question, "I really don't understand how this map fell into your hands?" Harry didn't say anything, but he answered in his heart. This was given by his friend's twin brother, and it was a precious gift that only the heir of mischief could get. Professor Lupin became more and more angry as he spoke, as if he was looking at his non-existent rebellious son who hated him for not being able to make it. "To be honest, I'm shocked that you didn't choose to hand it in." "Why should I hand it in?" Harry didn't agree with Professor Lupin's words in his heart. "Have you ever thought that if it fell into Black's hands, he would be able to find you through the map?" This last reproach made Harry stunned at first, because Professor Lupin might sometimes address others differently. Black. After thinking about it, I realized that Professor Lupin was talking about Sirius Black. At this point, Harry finally recognized Professor Lupin's words. Harry is 13 years old this year, and he is not young anymore. If the elders just blame and scold him blindly, it will naturally make the hot-blooded child rebellious. But if you start from the perspective of care, then it will be easier for people to accept. Just now, Professor Lupin asked why the map is here with Harry. This question is very strange. "Why? I am a famous wizard in the wizarding world, Harry Potter, who destroyed Voldemort's conspiracy to steal the Philosopher's Stone and went deep into the dusty chamber to kill the 1,000-year-old giant snake. Can't I have a magical map?" The second sentence, Professor Lupin asked Harry why he didn't hand it in. If it weren't for the fact that Professor Lupin had taught and helped Harry, Harry would have wanted to confront him directly. "You said to hand it in, so I handed it in. Why?" However, after Harry savored Professor Lupin's third sentence, his irritable heart calmed down a little. Harry was originally a child who lacked love since childhood. If someone really cared about him, he could still feel it very sensitively. I haven't thought about it. Sirius Black is Harry Potter's archenemy. If there is a chance, Harry will definitely kill him in person. So, even if Sirius Black finds Harry through the Marauder's map, Harry is not afraid. If Harry is a coward, then last year, he would not have been able to pull out the Gryffindor sword from the sorting hat and stab the 1,000-year-old giant snake in the Chamber of Secrets to death with one sword. So, Harry is sometimes frightened by unknown things, but he will never be afraid of any enemy. Professor Lupin thought Harry realized his mistake, but he didn't know that Harry's heart was full of hatred. When the elders think that they can see through the whole heart of a younger generation based on their experience of eating salt, it is simply a big joke. No one can really understand a person's heart, not even himself, herself. However, Professor Lupin thought Harry knew he was wrong, so he said in a calmer tone, "Your father is also a person who doesn't like to follow the rules. But they gave their lives to save you, and you don't respect their sacrifice. You know that the murderer is at large, but you wander around the castle without any precautions. Do you think you are repaying them by doing this?" There is nothing wrong with what Professor Lupin said, but there is nothing absolute in the world. In terms of percentage, Professor Lupin is 80% right, but there is still 20%, which always makes people feel uncomfortable. Yes, the remaining 20% is moral kidnapping. There is nothing wrong with Harry's parents sacrificing themselves for Harry, and their love is great. But should Harry be submissive, afraid of death, and live in hiding from now on? Some people live lighter than a feather, while some people die, but it is heavier than Mount Tai. Everyone has their own choices, and everyone wants to find the value of life. So, taking a risk tonight, 80% of Harry is wrong. But there is still 20% of Harry is right. There is no 100% perfect thing in this world. It's just a matter of how much profit and loss there are. The beautiful Miss Hermione was watching the show on the side. Sure enough, Professor Lupin was not up to standard. When Professor Snape was around, the system options popped up one after another, making people dizzy. And now, when Professor Lupin and Harry were acting against each other, the system options were still the same. But it was good this way. Miss Hermione could be alone. If she was not worried about being exposed by being too casual, she would even want to eat and watch the show at the same time, so that she would be satisfied. In the future, I will not cover up for you anymore. Harry, do you hear me? Professor Lupin was referring to the scene where he lied to Professor Snape just now. Of course, Harry also understood that the concern of the elders is usually said in one way and done in another. On the surface, they said, "I am so disappointed in you, I will never care about you again in the future." But in fact, they will not. When something happens, they will still be the first to stand up. Yes, Harry acted very honestly, as if he knew he was wrong. He looked through his glasses and glanced at the Marauder's map in Professor Lupin's hand, and even wanted to take it back. But in the end he didn't have the courage to speak. Professor Lupin frowned. He seemed to have successfully seen through Harry Potter's little thoughts. He immediately became angry again. "I want you to go back to the dormitory immediately and sleep honestly. Don't beat around the bush again. If you want to spare me, I will know." Professor Lupin shook the Marauder's map in his hand while speaking. It's very strange. Professor Lupin seemed to have figured out the trick of the Marauder's map that Professor Snape couldn't open just now. At this time, Harry didn't know that one of the authors of the Marauder's map, the ancestor of pranks, is the Professor Lupin in front of him who is full of benevolence and morality. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 241 Friendship can capsize at any time. Divination classes last for 3 years and 5 years of simulations for the college entrance examination. The quiet classroom seemed noisy because of the presence of Professor Lupin and Harry. Hermione watched the show on the side. Fortunately, the system did not continue to let her make strange choices. Harry didn't know that there was always a beautiful girl around him. He felt that Professor Lupin seemed to trust the Marauder's map very much, as if he could know everything as long as he had the Marauder's map. Harry thought so at first, but he didn't think so now. "Professor, in fact, this map is not always accurate." Harry was still an honest child in the end. Hearing that Harry was about to leave, he still raised such doubts. Harry didn't know that one of the authors of the Marauder's map was Professor Lupin. He was very satisfied and confident with his work back then. He wondered if Harry had misunderstood something. "Oh, why do you say that?" Harry knew everything. "Just now, it showed that there was a person walking in the castle. I went out in the middle of the night to check him, but the problem is that the person should have been dead." In the middle of the night, Harry's words really made people feel creepy. A person who should have died appeared on the Marauder's map and walked around. Professor Lupin questioned, "Can this map also display ghosts?" This function was not available when it was made. "I don't know, but I didn't see him." Instead, he was caught by Professor Snape. Professor Lupin asked, "Who is the person who should have died?" The moonlight outside the window was still very bright, and Professor Lupin could still see it without turning his wand into a night light. Professor Lupin's first feeling was that it was Harry Potter's problem. He must have seen it wrong. When Harry revealed the name of the person who should have died, Professor Lupin was undoubtedly stunned. Peter Pettigrew. Professor Lupin, who always appeared as a professor and elder, was completely stunned. "This is absolutely impossible." Peter Pettigrew, that person has been dead for many years. How could he appear again, and still on the Marauder's map? Seeing Professor Lupin's reaction, Harry didn't explain much. In fact, he didn't understand it himself. "Anyway, I saw it on the Marauder's map." After saying that, he left in a chic manner. Harry was still very polite. "Good night, Professor." Hermione also yawned. It was finally over. Staying up late to watch TV shows is always tiring. She glanced at Professor Lupin, who was left alone. She actually saw Peter Pettigrew on the Marauder's map. This incident must have been a big blow to him. He didn't believe that Harry was lying. "So, is there something wrong with the Marauder's map?" After Harry left, Professor Lupin opened the Marauder's map and continued to study it. However, he was surprised to find that the name, Hermione Granger, flashed in this empty professor's map, which was very strange and surprising. "Is there another person here? Is it really that scary?" "No, it's still a problem with the Marauder's map." Professor Lupin felt that the Marauder's map had been in disrepair for a long time and needed to be patched up and used for a few more years. The next day, it was a good day. Many students came to the divination class that day. In the original drama, Hermione obviously didn't believe in the divination class, but her body was very honest and she didn't miss a single divination class. He was still in a bad mood with the divination professor Sybil Trelawney in class, and even knocked over the crystal ball in public and turned away. It seemed very rude, but Hermione here would not do that. Open your mind and look far ahead. The skill of crystal ball divination is to make your third eye clear. Only in this way can you see the future. Try again. What do you see? In the classroom, everyone gathered in groups of 3 or 5, as if playing mahjong. Malfoy did not attend the divination class. He seemed not to have studied this course, which made him regretful and missed another opportunity to be with Miss Hermione. Otherwise, he would definitely ask to divine his and Hermione's future. At this moment, Hermione, Harry and Ron were together. Perhaps because of the protagonist's halo, Professor Trelawney first performed divination on them. In the original play, Professor Trelawney held Hermione's hand and confided the extremely unpleasant divination content. "My dear, from the moment you stepped into my divination class, I felt that you did not have the qualities required for divination spells. Look here, but your heart is withered like an old girl, and your soul is as dry as the paper of these books. Those books you studied hard have become useless here." It was because this old witch said this in public that Hermione in the original play turned her face in public. "Do you need divination, beautiful girl?" Professor Trelawney asked Hermione next to her. Hermione was about to answer that she didn't need it. Last time, it was predicted that Hermione was a god. If something unexpected happened again this time, how could Hermione keep a low profile in Hogwarts? However, the system option pop-up window appeared in time. Option 1. The boat of friendship can be overturned at any time. Agree to Professor Trelawney's divination and see how she evaluates herself. Completing the task will reward you with a boat model. Option 2. Let Professor Trelawney get out of here. I am a firm supporter of science and have experienced the 3-year simulation of the 5-year college entrance examination. Destroy all the weird ways. Completing the task will reward you with a small red flower. Option 3. Let Ron try it. Politely say that I am not feeling well recently and don't need it. Completing the task will reward you with +1 basic attribute. These three options are quite unfair, although they are in completely different directions. One is to agree, one is to refuse, and one is to shift the blame to others, but the rewards are very different. There is almost no need to think about it. What friendship can be overturned at any time? I don't know Professor Trelawney at all, except for Ms. Hermione and Professor Snape. I have a good relationship with him. I sent him a surprise last night. There is also a 3-year simulation of the 5-year college entrance examination. I have traveled to the wizarding world and used science to explain it. Don't you think it is far-fetched? Professor Trelawney, I have relatives coming recently and I am not feeling well. Let Ron come. Relatives coming? Professor Trelawney was a little crazy, but she was not stupid. As a woman, she quickly understood what Ms. Hermione meant and immediately replied, "Okay, no problem." Then Ron was horrified and wanted to refuse. However, at this time, the crystal ball in front of him suddenly emitted a strange light, shining on Harry's body. This scene was very strange. Professor Trelawney also looked horrified. Divination is to pry into the secrets of heaven, which is very mysterious. Harry Potter, you should do it. Professor Trelawney instructed Harry. Don't be afraid, just put your hand on the divination crystal ball. Harry glanced at Hermione and Ron. Ron looked like he had escaped a disaster. Students who are familiar with Professor Trelawney know that Professor Trelawney is best at divining other people's deaths. Although as a natural person, everyone will be very curious, but no one wants to know how they died. Therefore, Ron still felt that he had successfully escaped the disaster because he could divination Harry instead of himself. Chapter 242. The sky cleared, the rain stopped, you felt you were fine again. A coyote's crow came to visit. Harry Potter didn't expect that he, as the protagonist, would have so many problems. Miss Hermione had clearly recommended Ron. Perhaps Hermione thought that Ron was more humorous and that she could predict interesting things from him. But she never expected that the crystal ball would dislike Ron and choose to approach Harry. Although Harry was a little bit resistant in his heart, it was done, so why not give it a try? Under the guidance of Professor Trelawney, Harry began to put his palm on the crystal ball. The next moment, before Ron and Hermione could see clearly what was in the crystal ball, Professor Trelawney, who was standing by, was like a ghost. She was already crazy and mad, and now she was like a shaman. She used a Drake voice to pretend to be scary and mysterious and said, "He will be back tonight." Who will be back? Ron showed a surprised expression and looked at Harry Potter with a worried look. Tonight, the man who betrayed his friend, the man who became a murderer, will break free from his chains. The blood of innocent people will flow, and the servant and his master will join forces again. It was quite terrifying. Even the cat on the chair next to him, whose fur stood up in fear. Harry turned even paler. He hated Professor Trelawney's divination a little bit, because her divination was always bad. Miss Hermione didn't say anything, as she knew that the system options couldn't be indifferent to Professor Trelawney's hard work. The pop-up window appeared again. Option 1. The sky is clear, the rain has stopped, and you think you are good again. Taunt Professor Trelawney, saying that she is a dog catching a rat and meddling in other people's business. Complete the task and get a set of Sasuke head stickers. Option 2. Invest your emotions and tell Professor Trelawney that your prediction is amazing. Harry, you really have to pay attention to it. Complete the task and get a dog catching a rat trophy. Option 3. Kick Professor Trelawney away. You should wake up, Professor. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, beautiful legs, +1. Option 4. I'll just take a look and even want to eat some spicy noodles. Completing the task will reward you with basic attributes +1. This is simply outrageous, so embarrassing. What kind of options are these? Isn't there a normal one? Why is option 1 out of place? The sky is clear, the rain has stopped, and you think you can do it again. Isn't this the exclusive motto of Sasuke and Naruto? Sasuke is either being beaten or on the way to being beaten. After pretending to be cool, you will be beaten. As the saying goes, although being beaten will make you late, you will never be absent. The reward of Sasuke stickers can further prove that this option is very related to Sasuke, but Miss Hermione will definitely not choose it. Option 2. The task requirements are not outrageous. Professor Trelawney's divination is still a bit good, and it's understandable to praise him a few times. But what's the matter with the reward of the dog catching a rat trophy? Is it referring to myself as a dog catching a rat, or is it Professor Trelawney who is a dog catching a rat? It should be the latter, because in the original play, Professor Trelawney's role, whether she is there or not, will not have much impact. Option 3 is even more outrageous. Although there was an option of kicking away before, it is not good to kick Professor Trelawney away in public at this moment. However, the exclusive attribute, beautiful legs, +1 reward makes people want it. Option 4 is also the same. Just keep silent. You said you still want to eat spicy strips. Hermione is also drunk. In the end, she chose to eat spicy strips. Ron soon smelled the smell. He was very surprised. Was Professor Trelawney's ghost possession performance so wonderful? Miss Hermione couldn't help but want to eat spicy strips. The atmosphere that Ron was worried and scared was instantly dispersed by the smell of Hermione's spicy strips. Congratulations on completing the option 4 task. Reward basic attribute +1, or basic attribute yields. I'm so sorry, kid, what did I just say? After Professor Trelawney woke up, she seemed to have forgotten all the secrets she had just revealed. Miss Hermione joked, "Nothing, you just said that your mouth is tasteless and you want to eat some spicy noodles." Hermione was trying to explain why she suddenly took the spicy noodles to eat. Spicy noodles? What kind of snack is this? There are many strange snacks in the wizarding world. Spicy noodles can't talk, can't change shape, can't jump and sing, and it is already a very common snack. Miss Hermione certainly didn't explain. Harry's face was a little pale. What did Professor Trelawney mean by that just now? Sirius Black, will he really not let him go? After class, the three of them came out together. Ron asked with concern, "Harry, are you okay?" Harry said, "I'm fine. That Professor Trelawney likes to talk nonsense. Don't take it to heart." Harry nodded. He seemed to have something on his mind. A few days later, calculating the time, it seems that today is the day when the hippogriff is taken to the Meridian Gate for execution. The three-person adventure team walked towards Hagrid's hut. When passing by an abandoned garden covered with vines, you can see a big guy wearing a black hood, with a very burly figure, and his exposed face and open mouth are too ugly. He sat on a stone pier and sharpened his knife. Holding a brick-sized whetstone, he sharpened a huge scimitar axe. The shape of this axe is very suitable for beheading. This indicates that the hippogriff will have a very bad result. On the side, the castle building is full of crows above and below. Crows are not mascots, even if this is a foreign country. Here, it also indicates death. Miss Hermione looked at the crowd twice more, and the system pop-up window appeared again. "What's wrong, Hermione?" Ron was curious why the goddess stopped. Harry also looked at Hermione. Hermione's eyes stayed on the crows and the executioner sharpening the knife. The scenery around was a little solemn. Option 1. Marvel at this crow. It is the incarnation of Akaya Itchy. It seems that Itchy is here to visit. Completing the task will reward you with a crow pet. Option 2. Put on contact lenses, transform into a middle school girl, recite the Sharingan crow spell, and summon the crow. Completing the task will reward you with the exclusive attribute, middle school, +1. Option 3. Leave silently, sighing. The wind is very noisy today. Completing the task will reward you with basic attribute +1. I am really speechless. The sky was clear a few days ago, and the rain stopped, and you felt that you were good again. Now here comes the crow, the incarnation of Akaichi. This is really the rhythm that the two brothers will not let go. However, the crows around the executioner at this moment do seem to have another meaning. But it's not right. Crows are regarded as treasures in the British royal family, and since the era of Elizabeth I, crows have become sacred objects. In ancient Greek mythology, crows have a bad reputation for deception. In Northern Europe, crows have become the embodiment of thought and memory. There are other places, all with different meanings, but most people believe that in ancient witch books, crows, like black cats, are often synonymous with death, fear, and bad luck. Because crows have a keen sense of smell, they can sense the smell of decay and death, and then they will go together to peck at its flesh, so they are considered to be ominous birds. The same is true in Naruto, and at this moment, the fate of the hippogriff is about to be beheaded, which attracts crows to watch, which also represents death. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 243 My system is amazing. Malfoy doesn't believe in tears. My system is indeed knowledgeable and erudite. When I am in the wizarding world, the option task directly makes a guest appearance in Naruto. I can't help but accept it. The wind is so noisy today. Hermione raised her head. In the not-so-bright sunlight, the light surrounded her exquisite chin. At this moment, she seemed to have turned into an emotional wandering poet. It seemed that every strand of hair was full of emotion. Harry and Ron were deeply moved. They also seemed to feel the bleak and solemn breath of the wind from Hermione's mouth. The death brought by crows, circling on the ground and in the air, made people feel depressed. Congratulations on completing the Option 3 task. Reward basic attribute +1. Not bad. The task is completed. Hermione no longer pretended to be deep, although she understood that, "The wind is so noisy today," was not what she meant now. But what's the harm? I am the boss here. What I say is what it is. They actually want to kill Buckbeak. It's terrible. Ron couldn't help but worry because he saw the ugly and tall executioner just now. We have to do something? Harry was more courageous and assertive than in the original movie. The three of them came to a high ground, where the scenery was beautiful. Looking into the distance, there were forests, grasslands, blue sky and white clouds, just like in a beautiful painting. There was a row of huge rocks below, and there were also three sneaky little ghosts hiding behind the rocks and peeking at something. It's Malfoy and the others. Damn, what bad things are they going to do again? Harry, Ron and Hermione rushed down immediately. From a distance, they could hear Malfoy's arrogant voice. Let me tell you, my dad said that I can keep the monster's head. I think I will donate it to the Gryffindor common room. It must be very exciting. That's amazing. Malfoy's followers Crabbe and Goyle echoed, and they were indeed three stinky guys who were in cahoots with each other. In the original movie, when Miss Hermione heard this, her temper couldn't stand it first, and she rushed up and punched Malfoy directly, which was so cool. Miss Hermione here is a lady. It is too rude to hit someone with a fist as big as a casserole. Hermione even wants to stab Malfoy in the stomach. As expected, I knew the system would not remain silent. A transparent 3D colorful pop-up window appeared. Option 1. Rush up and hit Malfoy with left hooks, right hooks, shadowless kicks, and continuous kicks. Beat him so hard that his mother can't recognize him. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, Fighting, +1. Option 2. Go up and support your hands on the stone, and dance a sexy wild catch dance to confuse Mr. Malfoy. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, Sexy, +1. Option 3. Use superb acting skills, in line with the script and character characteristics. Take out the magic wand to act out a play. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, Performance, +1. It's speechless. The system is too good. Option 1 is awesome. If there were no other people here, Hermione would go invisible to beat Malfoy. Hermione would naturally not object. However, in broad daylight, she still had to consider carefully about things that would damage her image. Although it feels good to beat someone up, how to clean up the mess. Option 2 is simply eye-catching. Sexy pussycats. If Miss Hermione remembers correctly, female internet celebrities often danced in the dance area before the world she traveled through. That scene was simply shocking. It is completely inconsistent with Miss Hermione's dignified and elegant image. Therefore, Hermione will not consider this option at all. She also jumped out to seduce Malfoy. Is he worthy? Then there is only option 3. There is no other way. Show your acting skills. Hermione played her true colors, which was in line with the character's personality. The performance was not exaggerated, nor did it seem dull. When she took out the wand, the action was as cool as drawing a gun or a sword. Ron and Harry behind her didn't know that Hermione had showed her acting skills. They just thought that Hermione's action was too cool. The wizard pulled out the wand, a very ordinary action. But under Miss Hermione's stunning appearance, the smooth and handsome posture, and the compelling momentum, she could almost win a little Golden Man award. "Malfoy, you're under arrest." Malfoy was stunned. He saw Miss Hermione coming aggressively. She was the highest level of a dog licker. Even if the goddess was angry, he would still find it pleasing to the eye. "Hermione, you have already captured my heart. Everything I have is yours." "Disgusting," Hermione scolded. "What were you doing here just now?" "Miss Granger, please be careful about your words to our Master Malfoy." Malfoy's dog began to take charge. Crabbe and Goyle seemed dissatisfied with Hermione's arrogant attitude towards Malfoy. Generally, people with low IQs are not likely to indulge in beauty, because beauty belongs to the high-end spiritual needs. Crabbe and Goyle are still at the low end of the demand. For Crabbe and Goyle, food is more attractive than beauty. For example, monkeys and gorillas will definitely be attracted by food, and will never look at you twice just because you are a beautiful woman. No need. Beating is love and scolding is care. No matter what Miss Hermione does to me, I will accept it calmly. Malfoy's reaction was beyond the expectations of the director team. He was too shameless. He was not as strong-willed as the Malfoy in the original movie. Fortunately, Miss Hermione had already expected it. There was nothing she could do. "I could only blame my sister for being too charming. Malfoy, I warn you, get out of here right now, and don't ever think about hitting the hippogriff again." Hermione was too lazy to get entangled with this handsome, rich, shameless and rogue bad guy. Malfoy finally reacted. "Hermione, you should know that I had my arms and ribs broken by that beast." Malfoy meant that he came here for revenge today. He must see the beast beheaded with his own eyes, otherwise it would be difficult to eliminate the hatred in his heart. "So what? You lost an arm and a few ribs, but the hippogriff lost his freedom. You only lost a leg, but she lost her love." This was a passage that destroyed people's worldviews on the internet. Now, Hermione has revised it and told Malfoy, "It's really fun, as expected. It's so cool for women to be unreasonable. Making trouble without reason is yids." Malfoy didn't notice what was wrong with Miss Hermione's words. After all, she revised it. "Freedom is of course important. It is much more important than illusory love." "Still not leaving? Do you have to do it?" Hermione said seriously. "Malfoy, if my wand releases a spell, the nature will be different." Malfoy gritted his teeth. In the original play, he was beaten away by Hermione with a fist. Although Hermione here can also use fists, Hermione here likes to come secretly. As the saying goes, ladies talk but don't fight. In the dead of night, when the moon is flying and the wind is high, she is turning into a chivalrous woman. Malfoy, who was obsessed with Hermione, finally said with frustration, "Okay, let's go." "But, Hermione, remember, I'm giving you face today, not because I'm afraid of you." TSK. Hermione was too lazy to do it, otherwise she would have used left hooks, right hooks, and a series of shadowless kicks to carry him away. "She's still trying to be brave in front of me." Looking at the embarrassed way Malfoy and his two men left, Ron was a little dissatisfied and said, "It's too easy for them to just let them go." Yes, how heroic and refreshing Hermione, the One-Punch Man in the original show, was. Not only good, it was simply awesome. Harry didn't forget their original purpose. He said, "Now that Malfoy has left, let's go see Hagrid." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244, Rabbits are so cute, how can we eat them? Hagrid becomes a poet. "Boss, are we just leaving like this?" Crabbe and Goyle were a little unwilling. Although Miss Hermione's heroic acting was really amazing, they were simple-minded and didn't buy it. They were more interested in whoever had the bigger fist, who was the father. So in the original movie, Hermione used her fist and scared them away. But here, Miss Hermione was still too gentle. Malfoy stopped, and seemed to feel that it was too cowardly to run away after being told by Miss Hermione with a few words. It was more elegant to be punched and then crawl away in the original movie. It was more face-saving. A man can't break his promise, right? Malfoy found a reason. Crabbe and Goyle immediately put forward a brilliant idea. Then the boss, wouldn't it be better if he didn't act like a man? Don't act like a man. Malfoy kicked Crabbe and Goyle in a rage. Get out, two good-for-nothings, with your brains. Pigs are smarter than you. Malfoy had no choice. Smart people didn't play with him. At the beginning of the first grade, Malfoy invited Harry Potter, who is well known in the wizarding world, to play with him, but Harry refused on the spot, which made Malfoy particularly embarrassed. Only these two pig-headed people, Crabbe and Goyle, were willing to listen to Malfoy. Get out, get out. Seeing them makes me angry. Although Miss Hermione didn't beat him like in the original movie, she was with Harry and Ron again, which made Malfoy feel very uncomfortable, and she ordered him to leave in front of Harry and Ron, which really made people more unwilling to think about it. What? The freedom of a beast, a hippogriff, is more valuable than the arms and ribs of my young Master Malfoy. Does my young Master Malfoy really have to break his ribs to make soup for Miss Hermione before she can be satisfied? After driving away the lazy Crabbe and Goyle, Malfoy hesitated for a moment, and finally decided that he would not be a man for the time being. He would turn into a beast and sneakily follow them to see what Hermione, Harry and Ron were going to do. Anyway, following people, this technical job, he was already very familiar with it. When he was in the first grade, he followed Harry and others in the middle of the night and reported them to Professor McGonagall. As a result, he was also punished. Since then, Malfoy has been much more cautious in doing things. For example, just now, he deliberately drove Crabbe and Goyle away, and then sneaked back alone. First, Crabbe and Goyle were too stupid, and it was not easy to hide with them. Secondly, Malfoy was not trustworthy, and he didn't want his men to know. Malfoy felt that he was still quite smart. Miss Hermione looked down on him, which was her loss. Malfoy felt very good about himself. Harry, Ron and Hermione didn't take the Malfoy incident seriously. They went straight to Hagrid. There are pumpkins bigger than human heads at the entrance of Hagrid. The pumpkins grow evenly without any crooked or cracked ones. There is also a barbecue rack on the side with a few hairs hanging on it. How can you eat rabbits when they are so cute? Rabbits are so cute. Please add more cumin. In fact, these rabbits are for the hippogriff tied with an iron chain on the side. Although Hagrid has always been a single dog, his hobbies have never changed in the past 3 years. He has always liked to raise some strange pets, like the three-headed dog Mau, the Neapolitan Mastiff Fang, the Norwegian Ridgeback Norbert, the eight-eyed giant spider Aragog, etc. So it is normal for the hippogriff Buckbeak to be like this now. Hagrid has caused a lot of trouble because of raising some strange pets, but he still can't change his hobby. After all, single people always have to find something interesting to do. Hagrid today is obviously different from the past. The light in the cabin is very good, but because of my mood, I feel very depressed when I see anything. Hagrid's tall body, a long beard, and a pair of eyes full of wisdom, which have not changed for years. At this moment, I feel like a poet is possessed. Hagrid is immersed in his own world. Today is undoubtedly the saddest day for him. Even though he was arrested in Azkaban twice, he has never been so sad. Pets are man's best friends. Look, the sea breeze blows through the trees. The poetic breath came out of Hagrid's mouth, and his eyes were wet. Hagrid's tall body stood by the window, and outside the window was a lying hippogriff. Hagrid. When Ron wanted to say something, Miss Hermione reached out to stop him, because as long as he opened his mouth, he would destroy the poetic atmosphere here and turn it into a funny scene. Let Harry do it. Harry had prepared his feelings. He walked up and said directly, Hagrid, let's just let it go. Harry didn't mention the name, but Hagrid knew that Harry was talking about the hippogriff. In fact, Hagrid had guessed that these three cute little guys full of kindness and justice would come today. No, they will suspect that I let it go, Hagrid said dejectedly. Ron on the side wanted to speak again. Hagrid, you are not afraid of Azkaban. You are a half-blood giant. Are you worried that they will suspect that you let it go? You disappoint me so much. Hagrid, are you so afraid of losing the job of teaching the care of magical creatures class? The beautiful Miss Hermione successfully predicted Ron's prediction, reached out and grabbed Ron's arm, and once again successfully stopped him from speaking. Oh my God! Ron was suddenly filled with happiness. Although they were separated by clothes, did they count as holding hands now? Rounding it off, yes. Ron's heart was rippling, and his mind was wandering. The happiness of a dog licker is so simple. I will cry if I say too much. Hagrid seemed to have sensed what Ron wanted to say just now. The sad Hagrid obviously had a higher IQ and became much smarter. Hagrid continued to explain, if I am suspected of releasing it, it will cause trouble for Dumbledore. The short words revealed how much sadness, and he should not interfere in other people's affairs. At the beginning, Hagrid was just a key manager and gamekeeper. His job was relatively simple and there was not so much pressure. But now it is different. He is one of the few current professors in Hogwarts, different identities and different constraints, and all of this was given to him by the headmaster Dumbledore. Hagrid can no longer be as willful and do whatever he wants as before. He has to consider more important people. Last year, Dumbledore was framed and impeached by Malfoy's father Lucius, and was once suspended and expelled. This year, Hagrid will naturally not cause Dumbledore to get into trouble again because of the Hippogriff. After all, the bad guy who wants to kill the Hippogriff is none other than that bastard Lucius. If it was a face-to-face fight, Hagrid certainly wouldn't be scared at all when facing Lucius. Hagrid could even raise his big fist to fight 10 of them. But if it was a game of power and conspiracy, 100 Hagrids would not be a match for Lucius. So, even if the Hippogriff was Hagrid's favorite, he could do nothing about it. How painful it must be for Hagrid to watch his loved ones suffer and his enemies rejoice. It was so painful that he just turned into a poet. Please support my new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 245 Brother, you have lost weight. Feed the spotted rats with rat poison. The bleak wind turned into an even more desolate feeling in the eyes of the sad poet Hagrid. The crow that just passed by was stuck in traffic and didn't come. Otherwise Hagrid would be even more sad after seeing it. In the hut, Hagrid spoke without skill and emotion. Dumbledore will come soon. He said he wants to spend this moment with me. Hagrid's voice was particularly sad, but full of indescribable gratitude. Good man, Dumbledore. He is a great man. And indeed, although Dumbledore was idle most of the time, he still played an extremely important role in the matter of the Hippogriff being beheaded. Whether in the original movie or here, we will accompany you to Hagrid. Hermione, as the only woman in the room, had a gentle and comforting voice. But if she wanted to continue this state, she had to ask the system if it agreed. Option 1. Go to hell. I'm still waiting with the pot to taste the meat of the Hippogriff. Is it delicious? Add chili peppers and cumin. Grill one part and cook the other part in soup. Completing the task will reward you with a set of exquisite kitchenware. Option 2. We can't accept reality. We have to learn to resist. There must be a way. As long as we don't give up. Encourage Hagrid and his teammates. Don't give up even if you are pushed to a higher ground. Completing the task will reward you with a cute bunny pet. Option 3. Hand Hagrid a piece of chocolate. You will feel better after eating this. Completing the task will reward you with basic attributes plus 1 interesting. As a food blogger, food expert, and high-end food explorer and researcher, how to cook the meat of the Hippogriff to make it more delicious is indeed a university subject. However, as a lady, if Hermione makes this choice, it is still a bit cruel. You can think about it, but you can't do it. Option 2 is very loving, but it will overly expose her wisdom and the spirit of resisting fate. If Hermione really becomes the spiritual leader of Hagrid, Harry and others, it will be difficult for her to continue her low-key, introverted, trouble-avoiding, cautious and prudent lifestyle. Or option 3, which is more valuable and more effective. It can also reduce the inventory in the space ring. In the professional terminology of economists, it is destocking. Hagrid, eat this, you will feel better. Hermione handed over a piece of chocolate that looked extremely delicious. Logically, Hagrid was in no mood to eat at this time, but the chocolate handed by Hermione seemed to be glowing. This was not an ordinary chocolate. Hagrid's mood really needed a little comfort. "Thank you." Hagrid took it and stuffed it into his mouth. Some people are extremely sad and will not eat, and some people are particularly sad and will eat crazily to vent. Hagrid ate too much and choked a little. Miss Hermione handed over a bottle of drink thoughtfully. Hagrid did not suspect that Miss Hermione would poison him. He took it and drank it down. "I feel much better," Hagrid said. Much better. Not sure if it meant that he was choking much better or that he was in a much better mood. "Don't do this to stay with me," Hagrid objected, and his attitude was very strong. "It's already so miserable. I won't let you see it." The miserable Hagrid was referring to the moment when the hippogriff was killed. "No, let's go after we finish our tea." Although Hagrid was tall and rude, he always had the habit of drinking tea, and he would also use good tea to entertain his favorite friends. Hagrid poured tea and handed the cups to Harry, Ron and Hermione one by one. Harry and Ron were in a very bad mood, and they were also thinking about how to break the situation. After all, this matter is not as simple as it seems on the surface. How to keep Professor Hagrid from being affected, and at the same time not to cause trouble to Headmaster Dumbledore, and successfully save the hippogriff. This is a big question. Sometimes people can't be too mature and too calm. If Harry and Ron were younger and more reckless, they could do what they want to do regardless of everything and the consequences. Often many things are delayed because of hesitation. Harry and Ron were not in the mood to drink tea, and Hagrid suddenly thought of something. "By the way, before you go, Ron, your pet." As he was talking, Hagrid brought a pet rat from nowhere. The rat was so fat that it would definitely drip oil if it was grilled. "Scabbers, you're still alive." Ron was stunned. It was a pleasant surprise. For a long time, probably since Sirius Black sneaked into Hogwarts and was discovered by the fat lady, Ron's pet rat disappeared strangely. In the original movie, Ron could still find a reason that his rat was eaten by Hermione's cat. But here, Miss Hermione, who never kept a pet because she was lazy and afraid of trouble, Ron couldn't find such a reason at all. Ron did think that something happened to the Scabbers rat, because it really hadn't appeared for a long time. Hagrid saw that Ron was also a person who cared about his pet, and he felt the same way. Hagrid was an elder-level figure in Hogwarts who liked to keep messy pets the most. "You must take good care of your pet in the future, and don't lose it again," Hagrid warned. "Thank you, I'll pay attention." Ron was very happy to get his lost mouse back. This big mouse had lived in Ron's house for many years, and Ron still had a lot of feelings for it. In the original movie, Hermione certainly didn't miss this opportunity and asked Ron to apologize to her seriously, because Ron said before that it was Hermione's cat that killed his mouse, but it turned out that Ron's mouse sneaked out of the castle by itself. Ron is also very humorous. He answered in the original movie, "Next time, I'll apologize to your cat." Hermione in the original movie was of course very angry. "Apologize to me, not to my cat." It's a pity that Hermione here couldn't force this interesting plot in. However, the system did not disappoint. It directly popped up a window. Option 1. This big rat looks like it has a lot of meat. If you make it into a barbecue and add more peppers and more sesame, it must be delicious. Completing the task will reward you with a Medal of Gourmet title. Option 2. Brother, you have lost weight. This rat must be hungry. I have a bag of pure natural green non-GMO rat poison here. Ron, can you pry its mouth open? I will feed it. Completing the task will reward you with another bottle of dichlorvos bottle cap. Option 3. I am a little lady. Quietness and duty are my motto. Completing the task will reward basic attributes +1. So funny. Although Hermione likes to eat delicious food, she can't eat everything, right? And feeding rat poison, this kind of thing can be done secretly, in front of Ron and Harry. How bad is it? It's better to choose to be a lady, which is in line with Miss Hermione. So, Hermione didn't care. Quiet and elegant. Congratulations on completing the option 3 task. Reward basic attributes +1. This task, it's so cool to complete. The system should release more tasks like this. Footsteps sounded, and 3 people came not far from the window. Minister, this way. It was Dumbledore's voice. He seemed to be leading the team himself. leading the Minister of Magic Cornelius Fudge, and walked quickly towards Hagrid's hut. Behind the two people was the butcher executioner that Hermione and others had just seen. He was wearing a black mask and carrying a huge crescent-shaped axe. There was a group of bloodthirsty crows around him, which looked quite terrifying. Chapter 246 Look at my 40-meter sword. Dumbledore's wisdom. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Time was running out, and Hagrid didn't care about letting the three little guys continue to drink tea, and started to drive them away. Go, go, it's getting dark, and it will be troublesome if you are outside the castle at night, especially you, Harry. Hagrid was still concerned about Harry at this time, because everyone knew that Sirius Black's escape from prison this year was aimed at Harry. I'll be there soon. Hagrid went to open the door and turned back to tell the three of them to leave quickly. Although Hagrid's hut is not big, it has 2 doors and a back door. Harry, Ron and Hermione can leave through the back door. Harry wanted to fight for it, but Ron and Hermione pulled him out. Hunched over, he used the building to avoid the eyes of Dumbledore, the Minister of Magic and the Executioner, and left here quickly. Many crows flew outside, both in the sky and on the ground, and the breath of death was very strong. The hippogriff seemed to know its fate. It was very quiet and crawled on the ground, as if it didn't want to cause trouble to Hagrid before it died. In short, it looked very pitiful. Hagrid and the house began to entertain 3 uninvited guests. These 3 were really uninvited guests, and they came to take the hippogriff's life. Are you okay, Hagrid? Dumbledore's voice. Come in. Let's have some tea. Let's get down to business. The voice of Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic, was very serious. The Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures has decided that Buckbeak, the hippogriff, is now called a death row prisoner and will be executed at sunset today. Oh my God! Oh my God! Hagrid cried out in grief. Okay, okay, Hagrid. Dumbledore's comforting voice. The voice of the Minister of Magic. The executioner will behead the death row prisoner soon. There was no extra nonsense. Ron and Harry hid behind the big pumpkin and could only worry. We have to do something. Harry couldn't stand watching the tragedy happen. Harry here is obviously more courageous than in the original movie. Ron asked, but what should we do? It's too difficult. It's easy to let the hippogriff go, but how to clean up this mess will definitely cause trouble for Hagrid and Headmaster Dumbledore, and it's not sure whether the 3 of them can escape. Options popped up in front of Hermione. Option 1. You are still hesitating to kill a beast. Executioner, put down the butcher knife. Let me do it. Look at my 40-meter sword. How awesome. Complete the task and reward a 50-meter sword. Option 2. Take Ron and Harry to secretly let the hippogriff go, and set off some fireworks to celebrate. Complete the task and reward a washing machine. Option 3. Let Harry and Ron wear masks, in case they are recognized. It will be bad. Complete the task and reward a bottle of glucose. Looking at these 3 options, Hermione was speechless. 40-meter sword? With one strike, Hagrid, the Minister of Magic, Dumbledore, and the Executioner can all be killed. It's all over. This task is simply outrageous. A 4-meter sword is already extremely rare, and it's 40 meters. In order to force a joke, the system really doesn't care about common sense. Why not just use a 42.196-kilometer sword? They can also be allowed to run a marathon first. Option 2 is also the same. Just let it go secretly, and set off firecrackers and fireworks to celebrate before leaving. Unless Miss Hermione is stupid, she really can't do such a thing. However, if you change the order a little bit, it's not impossible. For example, use fireworks to attract the attention of several people in the room, and then quietly release the hippogriff from the side. But it's still too risky. Hermione chose the safest method. She took out the mask and handed it to Ron and Harry. The 2 were stunned and didn't understand what Hermione meant. Hermione explained forcefully, I'm afraid you'll cry and look embarrassed. You should learn from me and wear it on your mouth. Hermione is a goddess after all. There is no one else in Hogwarts or even in the whole of Britain who is 80% as beautiful as her. In addition, she usually does things in a safe way, so Harry and Ron listen to her very much. Although they also think that Hermione's reason is far-fetched, They still put it on immediately. After putting it on, they instantly wondered if Hermione was going to take them to do something bad. After all, whether abroad or at home, covering your face and sneaking around is not normal behavior. Congratulations on completing option 3 task, and reward 1 bottle of glucose. At this moment, the ugly executioner has come with a crow special effect and a beheading axe. At this time, a small stone flew from nowhere and smashed the flower bed in Hagrid's house accurately. The movement attracted the attention of several people in the room. At the same time, a small stone hit Hermione's back gently. Hermione turned her head sharply, and her beautiful big eyes like crystal seemed to see something. "What's wrong?" Ron asked. There was a dense forest behind them, and nothing could be seen. "I think I saw." "Forget it. Let's go." Hermione immediately pulled Harry and Ron, who were reluctant to leave, away from here. They came to the commanding heights, where they found Malfoy peeking just now. There were several large rocks here, just enough to hide their bodies. There is a very interesting detail here in the original movie. Hermione, a big girl who had just developed a body, hugged Ron sadly, and Ron did not refuse and hugged Hermione. Harry, a single dog on the side, also hugged Hermione, and the 3 little guys hugged each other in this strange posture. "We can't just run away like this, standing here and watching, doing nothing." The excited Harry took out his wand directly. There is no doubt that Harry Potter here is not arranged by the director and screenwriter, and he wants to act according to his own ideas. However, Hermione stopped him, and it was obvious that Harry's behavior was very irrational. "Harry, calm down. Maybe we have a better way." With a chuckle, the ugly executioner below chopped down with a knife. Ron and Harry were dumbfounded, especially Ron. He held his lost pet mouse and said with a sad face, "It seems that we don't need a better way. The hippogriff has been killed." Harry has always trusted Hermione very much, although she is sometimes funny and nonsensical, although her reasoning is sometimes funny, but, today is the first time that Harry is so disappointed with Miss Hermione's performance. If she hadn't stopped him just now, maybe Harry could have stopped this tragedy with a magic. "We can't just stand here and do nothing because we don't want to implicate Dumbledore, and we can't just stand here and do nothing because Hagrid is afraid of causing trouble for Dumbledore." However, Harry's disappointment with Hermione in his heart could not be expressed in words at this moment, but it is obvious that Harry's eyes dimmed a lot. Hermione did not explain either. The time has not come yet, and everything will turn around, as long as Miss Hermione still has the time converter. At this time, Ron suddenly screamed, and the unlucky him was bitten by the pet rat in his arms. His fingers were bleeding in an instant, and the bite was quite fierce. "It bit me." Ron couldn't believe it. "My scabbers, it actually bit me." Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 247. Although you are short, you have a high hairline. The Homping Willow has a bad temper. Scabby, come back, don't run. Ron chased after the scaly rat even though his hand was injured. He hadn't been happy for long after getting it back, but now he was going to lose it again. Ron's little heart couldn't bear it. It must have been scared because it saw the hippogriff being beheaded just now, so it chose to run away. Ron and Harry were both very smart, and Miss Hermione knew this very well. Hermione didn't intend to make trouble and follow her feelings, but her system didn't think so. Life is only a few decades long. If you don't take care of yourself and do something interesting, then you've come to this world in vain. The option pop-up window appeared again. Option 1. It's time to test your shooting skills. Take out the sniper rifle you have treasured for a long time, snipe the scaly rat while running, and take its head within 3 shots. Complete the task and reward 1 airdrop box. Option 2. Sniping the rat is meaningless, so it's better to snipe Ron and Harry, kill them both, and finish early. Completing the task will reward you with the protagonist Halo +1. Option 3. Requires you to run faster than Harry, and laughs at Harry for being too weak. Completing the task will reward you with a frying pan. Speechless. Killing the spotted rat within 3 shots. This kind of task is probably something that only the system can come up with. Option 2 is even more outrageous, too violent. It turns out that after killing Ron and Harry, Not only can you finish the flower sprinkling, but you can also guess the protagonist's halo. By the way, is this protagonist's halo an object, or is it used to increase luck? Hermione didn't know. Although she wanted to experiment, the cost was too high. Let's go with option 3, although she didn't have any interest in this option. But there was no way. The first two were really difficult to do. Ron ran very fast in front to catch up with his rat. Harry was a boy, and it was reasonable that he exercised more than Hermione, so he followed very fast. However, Hermione was faster. When Hermione passed Harry, she mocked him. "Harry, you are a little weak." Harry didn't quite understand why Miss Hermione said he was weak. Logically speaking, there is no wizard in the whole Hogwarts who is better at fighting than him. In the original movie, as the male protagonist, he has been fighting all the time, but Harry didn't think much about it, and just fell behind and chased the two people in front. What the three didn't know was that after they left, there was another sneaky person behind them. That's right, Malfoy, who was going back and forth. Malfoy never showed up. He hid very well this time, except for the crow who found him. No one else noticed him. He looked at Harry, Ron and Hermione wearing masks and running fast, and was very confused. Are they so timid? Seeing the hippogriff beheaded, so they were scared away immediately. Malfoy plucked up his courage. He felt that he was braver. Even though he was just a minor villain in the original movie, he didn't think he was a supporting role here. For his life, he is his protagonist. In order to take revenge, his father Lucius played tricks and killed the hippogriff, so Malfoy must go to see the body of the hippogriff. However, before he got close, a strange situation occurred. Malfoy actually saw a scene that he couldn't believe. What on earth is going on? The two Hermiones seemed to have noticed something, but she didn't tell Harry and Ron. Malfoy had left in the original movie a long time ago, but he didn't expect that he would become an accident here. Why not just kill him directly and use the corpse-dissolving water that I personally developed to destroy his body on the spot? Ron chased his Scabbers all the way to the Hopping Willow outside the school. The Hopping Willow is an old acquaintance. Ron pounced on it and finally succeeded in catching his mouse Scabbers. Even though he was sitting on the ground, Ron finally smiled. Harry saw the Hopping Willow behind Ron start to move, and immediately exclaimed, "Ron, watch out." The Hopping Willow once smashed Ron's father's charming flying car and smashed Harry's flying broom. Now Ron has entered the Hopping Willow's territory again. When the Hopping Willow started to lose its temper and was about to hit Ron with a stick from the sky, Ron actually ignored his own safety and began to warn Harry. People's eyes look forward, so Harry can see the danger behind Ron. Similarly, Ron's eyes just happened to see the sudden accident and danger behind Harry. "Harry, run, it's ominous." Ron couldn't call out the name of the scary black dog for a while, but under the gloomy sky at this moment, Ron first thought of the ominous big dog predicted by the divination professor. Tonight, the person who betrayed his friend, the person who became a murderer, will break free from the chains, and the blood of innocent people will flow. Ron admitted that the divination professor's predictions were quite accurate. The ominous scary black big dog really came. Ron and Harry were not prepared at all. Harry turned around suddenly and saw the big black dog, which was very scary. Once when Harry ran away from home after turning his aunt into a hot air balloon, he saw this big black dog in the green belt on the dark street. It turns out that it is ominous. Miss Hermione is obviously in a much better state than Ron and Harry, but she is a low-key person, so she is thinking about how to eat watermelon without attracting too much attention. At such a critical moment, the system options will naturally not be silent. Option 1. Although you are short, you have a high hairline. Use this beautiful sentence to praise the ominous black dog. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, courage, +1. Option 2. Take out the magic wand, use magic, and burn the branches of the Hopping Willow. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, courage, +1. Option 3. Submachine gun in left hand, magic wand in right hand. Solve the crisis of the ominous black dog and the Hopping Willow at the same time. I am the savior. Complete the task and reward the exclusive attribute, savior, +1. Option 4, I will just watch, don't say anything, and even take out a bite of the sweet watermelon. Complete the task and reward basic attributes +1. Absolutely. This task, although you are short, but your hairline is high. Isn't this a funny word? The same word combination also has sentences. Although you are ugly, but you are poor. Although you have small breasts, but your face is big. Although your fat is thick, but your wallet is thin. Although your salary is low, but you have a lot of work. Although your bank account is empty, but your shopping cart is full. Although you live a bad life, but your love rival lives a good life. Although he, she, doesn't like you, but others don't like you either. Very heartbreaking, but very realistic words. So Hermione felt that with her knowledge reserve, she could definitely make a few more sentences for the ominous black dog, such as, although you are a dog, but you live worse than a dog. Although you have been imprisoned in Azkaban for more than 10 years, the Dementors have no intention of letting you go. At this critical moment, it is better not to play with memes. Option 2, burn the Homping Willow and you can warm yourself by the fire. Option 3 is interesting. The reward is, Savior, +1. Although Hermione knows that her system is closely related to the Savior, what is this, Savior, in the attribute? It doesn't make sense. Does it mean that after getting Savior +1 and adding more, it will have more Savior attributes? Chapter 248. Don't be fooled by this woman's good looks. She actually has a good figure too. Tathagatapam. Hermione didn't have extra time to study. If she wanted to get Savior +1, the task was difficult. She had to use a submachine gun and a magic wand to deal with the ominous big dog and the Homping Willow at the same time. This didn't conform to Miss Hermione's low-key rule. Forget it. Miss Hermione still likes to play it safe. She doesn't want to do anything too risky, even if the success rate is very high. Besides, after completing the option 4 task and getting the basic attribute +1, she can definitely find the Savior attribute and add it. However, Miss Hermione didn't want to be a savior at all. It's too dangerous. She doesn't like a too dangerous life. At such a critical moment, Hermione actually felt that she stepped on something. Oh my goodness, no way. Hermione squatted down to pick it up and saw that it was the fruit of the willow tree. Normal willow fruits are very small, but the one Hermione stepped on is very big. Let's pick it up. Maybe it can be used in making medicine in the future. After all, the fruit of the Homping Willow must be different from that of ordinary willows. At this critical moment, Hermione took 2 steps back, then took out a watermelon from her space ring and ate it very quickly. Oh my god, it's so sweet. Congratulations on completing option 4, reward basic attribute +1. Miss Hermione moved very quickly. In fact, the ominous big dog, Harry, and Ron didn't notice what Hermione, who looks pretty good, was doing just now. She was eating watermelon. That's right, she was really eating watermelon. At the moment of completing the task, the ominous black dog began to move. Harry thought the ominous big dog would attack him, because the professor of divination had predicted it twice. But what Harry didn't expect was that the ominous big dog actually ran past Harry quickly. It didn't attack Harry? Is it going to save Ron? Because the whip of the Homping Willow, which is as thick as an arm, is going to whip Ron directly. If this move goes down, even if Ron doesn't die, he will lose half his life. At the critical moment, the ominous big dog rushed over and bit Ron's leg. Ah! Ron screamed in pain. Ron never thought that he would be so unlucky. First he was bitten by the spotted rat, then hit by the Homping Willow, and then the ominous big dog in the prophecy did not bite Harry Potter, but rushed over and bit his leg without hesitation. The continuous blows and pain almost made Ron collapse. Ron, let him go. Harry and Hermione both rushed over, but the Homping Willow had more than 1 arm-thick willow branch. More than a dozen of them were whipping Harry and Hermione. Hermione was too low-key. She wore an ominous sign and used her strength to nimbly hold the thick willow branches and pretend to be hit. Hermione clearly felt that her body was hit hard, but it was okay. Her body had physical defense ominous signs on the outside, and health +52, defense +56, on the inside. Hermione could completely withstand this blow. She even had time to apply some skin care products on her little hands and face. Harry was not so lucky. He was swept away by the breeze like a leaf, and fell heavily after landing. The ominous dog ignored Harry and Hermione, biting Ron's leg, and rushed into a deep hole under the Hopping Willow. At this time, Harry discovered that there was another hole under the Hopping Willow. It seems that the Hopping Willow also hides secrets. Hermione felt that she couldn't just sit there and watch. She had to do something. She moved flexibly on the branches of the Hopping Willow like a swing. You know, Miss Hermione not only has amazing defense, but also has agility plus 53, and strength plus 50. In front of the Hopping Willow, Hermione's graceful figure is more flexible than a monkey, and the Hopping Willow can't do anything to her. Harry, grab my hand. Hermione was as flexible as a monkey, and Harry was also skilled and bold. He stretched out his hand accurately, and Hermione grabbed him. Harry's heart was moved. Although the three of them were often together, they rarely had close contact, almost never, because Miss Hermione hated others touching her. Now was the critical moment, so he could not care about so much. Hermione grabbed Harry's hand and threw Harry into the hole under the giant tree accurately. Harry fell hard, but fortunately he had the aura of a protagonist, so he didn't break his arms and legs at this time. The Hopping Willow saw that Miss Hermione was not only beautiful, but also had a good figure. More importantly, she was very flexible. Under the attack of the Hopping Willow, she was able to calmly rescue Harry and throw him into the hole. Too abominable. The Hopping Willow controlled more than a dozen willow branches to attack Hermione crazily. Hermione was flexible, but after all, two fists could not beat four hands. Even if she put on the witch's cloak immediately, she could not avoid being whipped, and it hit Hermione's butt. Although she had multiple defenses and was not seriously injured, it made Hermione very angry out of shame. Don't touch the tigress's butt. So Miss Hermione was very angry. Seeing that there was no one watching outside, Hermione went all out, like a ghost, and quickly flashed in front of the Hopping Willow's trunk that was several people thick. The Hopping Willow hadn't realized anything yet, and it continued to frantically wave a dozen willow branches to attack this agile woman. However, the next moment, Hermione's eyes changed. The tigress was very scary when she was angry. The Tathagata palm. Damn it, if I don't show you some color, you still don't know that there are people beyond people and there are heavens beyond heavens. Miss Hermione secretly practiced the Tathagata palm for a long time, and today she really used it. It looked like a soft palm. Especially Miss Hermione's white and tender little hand was so soft that others would never imagine how terrifying this palm was. Boom. Even the Hopping Willow, which had always been very arrogant in the original drama and movie, was trembling with fear at this moment. And even the long roots connected to the ground were trembling. The thick willow branches that were about to wrap around Hermione and attack her instantly lost their strength and collapsed. That's it. Hermione hadn't used all her strength yet, otherwise the Hopping Willow would not be instantly smashed into pieces, but it would definitely crack. The Hopping Willow instantly became obedient. Miss Hermione's breathtakingly beautiful face, her indescribably perfect little mouth corners raised proudly, clapped her little palms and asked coldly, "How is it? Do you want to play?" Miss Hermione didn't have too many ways to deal with the Hopping Willow. Hot weapons, machine guns, missiles and other magic, fire, freezing and other potions, poisoning, soil destruction, etc. There are really too many ways, but Hermione used the most simple palm, Tathagata palm, to teach it to be a tree on the spot. The Hopping Willow seemed to feel the horror of this beautiful tigress, and while continuing to tremble, it didn't dare to resist or attack again. The Hopping Willow has witnessed many wizards, but no wizard has ever struck with such power that the earth and the sky could collapse with one palm strike. This is not a wizard at all. This is even more terrifying than a warrior, a tank, or a god of war. Humphrey, do you think I'm Hello Kitty if the tiger doesn't show its power? Hermione was too lazy to talk to the Hopping Willow. She took back the witch cloak, mainly because the cloak was too conspicuous and could not be worn inside like an ominous sign. Then she rubbed her butt, which was a little painful. Then they entered the tree hole. Harry thought it was an earthquake. The ground was shaking, and he couldn't even stand firmly inside. Harry never dreamed that the reason for such a big commotion was just because Miss Hermione angrily slapped the Hopping Willow. Please support the new book. Thank you everyone. Chapter 249. Do you want a wife? As long as you open your mouth. Harry is shocked. When Harry saw Hermione, he asked with great concern, "Hermione, are you okay?" Hermione's beautiful little face was flushed pink, and it seemed that she was angry. It seemed that the Hopping Willow outside was indeed unforgivable to make Miss Hermione, a dignified and virtuous lady, angry. "It's okay, let's catch up." After all, Ron was still being held by the dog's leg. Harry also realized Ron's danger. He and Hermione didn't communicate much, and went to the other side of the tree hole. "I suspect that the other side leads to." "I hope I'm wrong." Harry is very smart, especially at critical moments. Being able to play a smart IQ at critical moments is much more attractive than being unable to recognize oneself in dangerous moments and committing all kinds of suicide. Going up from the other end of the tree hole, as expected, it was in Hogsmeade Village, and directly entered the Shrieking House. This is a famous haunted house in the UK. Miss Hermione has a strange mind. She was impressed by the solidity of the tree hole. It didn't collapse. The Wizarding world really has many things that seem incredible to the Muggle world. Let's go upstairs and have a look. Harry has smelled something. Hermione opened her beautiful little mouth, but finally closed it. With Miss Hermione's prudence, she will definitely put on the invisibility cloak before going up. You know, you can do more things when you are invisible. But Hermione feels that Harry is the protagonist. He is about to face the terrible truth of the year. He needs to experience it personally. If he is invisible, he will feel like a spectator. Speaking of eating watermelons, Miss Hermione wants another piece of watermelon. She was thirsty after the battle with the Hopping Willow just now. Walking up the wooden stairs, the wooden boards made a creepy creaking sound due to years of disrepair. The quality of this Shrieking House is close to that of the Muggle world, but the tree hole we just came here is not. The passage is too solid. Upstairs, it is easy to smell the smell of blood. This is Ron's blood. Poor Ron was bitten on the leg, bleeding, and not bandaged. Not in the original movie. He couldn't stand up with a broken leg, and could only sit on the dusty floor. Interestingly, the spotted rat that had just bitten Ron's finger was still in Ron's arms. It seems that the spotted rat is really afraid of something else. It dares not leave Ron for the time being, fearing that it will be isolated and helpless. But even if the spotted rat stays with Ron, it will not help. Ron has difficulty protecting himself, so he naturally has no ability to guarantee its safety. He is the ominous black dog. He is Sirius Black. Ron played his last role. When he saw Harry and Hermione coming, he immediately raised his hand and pointed at the man standing not far from him. His body was tattered, he was skinny, his hair was as dull and full of stains as his skin, and his mental state was like a mental illness and a madman. It looks a bit scary. The main reason is that the rumors about Sirius Black are terrible. At this time, Miss Hermione rolled her eyes. She knew that the system option would definitely not be silent. The options that popped up in front of her were also extremely speechless. Option 1. Loudly ask Sirius Black, "Old wolf, do you want a wife? As long as you open your mouth, I will send it to you later." Let Sirius Black answer, then you send it. Complete the task and reward a pure gold. Black sculpture. Option 2. Don't panic when encountering things. Sirius Black, you should pose first, and I will take a picture of you and post it on WeChat moments later. Complete the task and reward a 120W fast-charging smartphone. Option 3. Let's do something practical. Clean Ron's wound, bandage it simply, and give him a few shots of vaccine at the same time. Complete the task and reward basic attributes +1. There is no doubt that among these three options, option 3 is still reliable. Forget option 1. In Sirius Black's current situation, he has basically said goodbye to his wife. Miss Hermione doesn't have a young wife to give him as a wife. There is no inflatable one neither. Option 2. It is easy to post on Moments, and the 120W fast-charging phone is also attractive. Unfortunately, Hermione is now in the Wizarding world. Even if she has 100 smartphones, she can't use them. Besides, option 3 is more reliable. Hermione immediately came to Ron's side, told him not to move, and then helped Ron clean the wound very professionally, and then simply bandaged it. Ron was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes after seeing what the goddess did for him. However, after bandaging the wound, it was not over yet. Miss Hermione's space ring has a special vaccine treasure box with an extraordinary shelf life, which was rewarded for completing tasks in the past. Miss Hermione is a female academic master. She has learned a lot with the medical knowledge rewarded by the system. For example, if Ron is bitten by a rat, he needs tetanus passive immunization preparations and epidemic hemorrhagic fever vaccine, as well as rabies vaccine. And if he is bitten by a dog, he needs rabies vaccine and tetanus vaccine. In other words, Ron needs at least 3 shots now. When Hermione, still wearing a mask, took out the syringe very professionally, Ron's face began to turn pale, his lips trembled, and his voice trembled as he asked, "Hermione, what are you going to do?" Hermione didn't say anything, and said briefly, "Vaccination." "What else?" "Shut up. Don't talk to me, goddess." Hermione didn't say anything, and stabbed Ron with needles one by one. "Ah, ah, ah!" Ron screamed 3 times. It was too cruel. Even if Miss Hermione was as beautiful as a fairy, at this moment, everyone's eyes on her changed. Even the spotted rat didn't dare to look directly at Dr. Hermione, for fear that she would get excited and use the syringe for pigs to give the spotted rat a needle. Sirius Black was a little curious. Miss Hermione actually knew such professional medical work. She was indeed a talented woman. Congratulations on completing the Option 3 task. Reward basic attribute +1. Hermione was quite satisfied. After doing all this, she stepped back and wanted to eat melons quietly. In the field, "Are you Sirius Black?" Harry also began to pay attention to the existence of the half-human and half-ghost opposite him, and the boiling emotions in his body began to surge. According to the information Harry has received so far, this Sirius Black is simply a heinous crime. He is Harry's sworn enemy. Sirius Black smiled crazily. After more than 10 years, he finally waited for this day. For Sirius Black, no one can really understand his feelings. Miss Hermione wants to eat melons and not participate, but the system doesn't agree. Now is a wonderful moment, too interesting, so the system options will not miss such a good opportunity to make a choice. Option 1. I am an actor. I have to rush in front of Harry with a voice and emotion, and protect Harry with a soft and solid body. Complete the task. Reward basic attribute +1. Option 2. Let's use missiles. It's time to destroy everything. Complete the task. Reward 1 exquisite dragon and phoenix coffin. Option 3. Do you want to appreciate my dance? Staring at me so bluntly, so shy, a live dance to cheer everyone up. MMP, this mission is absolutely amazing. There is no way out. Wanting to be a bystander, it seems that it is not possible. Options 2 and 3 are both very common options. For example, detonating a bomb used to reward urns, but now it has been replaced with coffins, which is also a novelty. Dancing, too common. Dancing and shaking your head, spirited girl. Today's dance of Diao Chen is already considered relatively elegant. Chapter 250. Do you want to enjoy my dancing? Blake's madness. The ominous black dog turned out to be Sirius Black. The floor was covered with dust, and it was clear that Ron had just been dragged up with his legs bitten. There were also dog paw prints on the ground, but under Sirius Black's feet, they turned into human footprints. This was not the transformation of a werewolf, but another kind of animagus transformation, which we had learned in class before. Professor McGonagall could also transform into a cat, which was also this kind. At this moment, Harry Potter and Sirius Black were facing each other. Since the 3rd grade had not yet started, the news about Sirius Black's escape from prison had spread through the streets and alleys through the Daily Prophet. Now, the face-to-face drama of these two people with destiny finally came. Miss Hermione was very reluctant. She felt that she could just move a bench, drink Coke, crack melon seeds, and eat watermelon and watch. She had to be involved. Alas, it's hard for workers. Hermione is professional in acting, which is a necessary skill for beautiful women and does not require attribute points at all. Just like the wise saying of Zhang Wuji's mother, the more beautiful a woman is, the more likely she is to deceive people. Hermione's beauty is directly proportional to her acting skills. Hermione quickly entered the state. If there is a director here, he will definitely like actresses like Hermione very much. It's not because of Hermione's beauty and charming figure, but because of her natural acting skills, which are clever and emotional, and every detail is handled just right. Miss Hermione just helped Ron get the vaccine, and then she quickly rushed to the front of Harry, and said to Sirius Black in the tone of a hot-blooded girl, "Do you want to appreciate my dance?" "Wrong. Do it again." "Just kidding. Hermione certainly won't dance here, let alone let them appreciate her dance. If you want to kill Harry, kill us too." At this moment, Hermione's eyebrows, attitude, and tone all show the toughness of a brave and fearless woman. Very tough. The kind of women who are not inferior to men. Sirius Black looked sideways, although he was in a state of madness at the moment. In such a short time, Miss Hermione's performance was enough to impress him. First, she helped Ron with bandaging and vaccination professionally, and then she rushed in front of Harry Potter. It happened that this girl was beautiful and had a good figure, which was perfect. However, Sirius Black was not in the mood today, otherwise he would have to learn more about her. As Harry's godfather, he would have helped Harry select an excellent and high-quality wife in advance. "No, only one person will die tonight." Sirius Black finally spoke. He thought he was very humorous, and he thought he was always like this. Hermione pretended that if she wanted to kill Harry, she had to kill them all, including Ron, of course. And Sirius Black thought he was very humorous and answered, "Only one person will die tonight." In fact, if he hadn't been so humorous, perhaps the misunderstanding could have been clarified earlier. Sirius Black had been locked up in Azkaban for too long. When he came out, he finally saw Harry and the enemy he had been looking for. Of course, he couldn't suppress his emotions at the moment. Harry was a little hero. He understood Hermione's good intentions, but how could he hide behind a girl? So he pushed Hermione away and rushed forward. Harry moved quickly. At this moment, he was covered with scars, like a warrior, agile and determined. In contrast, Sirius Black looked crazy, unconscious, and skinny. Sirius Black didn't dodge. It seemed that after turning from an ominous black dog back to a human, his fighting power was much weaker. Or maybe, he didn't want to attack Harry at all. Congratulations on completing the Option 1 task. Reward basic attribute +1. Hermione heard the system's prompt and knew that her performance could end. So she stepped back silently and started to eat melons professionally. Harry was not a professional assassin after all. He was so excited that he threw himself on Sirius Black, who did not dodge, and then sat on him. The wizard's exclusive weapon, the magic wand, was pointed at Sirius Black's face. Sirius Black was not afraid at all, but laughed, showing his dark teeth. "Are you going to kill me, Harry?" "Don't call me Harry. You don't deserve it." Harry was very emotional when he thought of the man in front of him who was once a friend of his parents, but he betrayed Harry's parents, and now became Voldemort's most loyal servant, and even wanted to escape from prison to kill him. What's even more hateful is that he is actually Harry's godfather. It's so ironic. Sirius Black thought he was very humorous and didn't rush to explain. Or maybe, after being imprisoned in Azkaban for so many years, he had already lost his mind. Ron was much better after being bandaged and injected, but he couldn't stand up yet. At this moment, he didn't know what he could do. Hermione pretended to be worried, but in fact, she was not worried at all. As long as the Voldemort she feared didn't show up, no one present was worth her attention. Boom boom boom. At the critical moment, a new character appeared. He turned out to be Professor Lupin. He looked more vicissitudes than ordinary people, and there were many scars on his face and his clothes were worn out. However, compared with the crazy Sirius Black, Professor Lupin who suddenly appeared at this moment was much more energetic, and his clothes were much more decent. Expelliarmus. The meaning of the spell is, disarm your weapons. Professor Lupin was worried that Harry would do something impulsively that would make him regret for the rest of his life. So he first took out his wand and disarmed the wand in Harry's hand. But in fact, truly powerful wizards don't need wands. Miss Hermione had discovered this problem a long time ago, so 80% of her spells don't need wands. She usually uses a wand to cast magic, just because she doesn't want to appear too powerful and too different. This is the effect of Hermione's purposeful training. If it were Hermione, even without a wand, it would be easy to kill Sirius Black, even without using the Budapom, the Serpent's Fang dagger, or the pistol bullets. Hermione has dozens of spells that can kill Sirius Black. In the past 3 years, Hermione has accumulated so many skills. She was a 3 good student before she crossed over. She loves learning and has excellent qualities. As time goes by, these excellent qualities will become better and better. Not to mention, she has a system plug-in. Even when she first came to the wizarding world and became Hermione Granger, her magic talent was actually not as good as that of the female academic Hermione, but as time goes by, she has already surpassed Hermione's ability dozens of times at this time in the original play. It is not only the credit of the system plug-in, but also the result of her own hard work and low-key development. Professor Lupin glanced at Hermione, who was eating melons, and Ron, who was still sitting on the ground after being bandaged. These 2 people are not threatening. Professor Lupin looked at Harry and Sirius Black in front of him with confidence. The 2 were more excited and crazy than each other. Seeing an old friend, Professor Lupin also showed his sense of humor. "Black, I haven't seen you for many years. You look so slovenly now. Your dirty appearance finally matches your inner madness. Please support my new book." Thank you everyone. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.